All right, y'all. So Joe Rogan had Vice President J.D. Vance on his podcast, and he washed his little baby nuts. It was embarrassing. It was humiliating. So I'm going to get to a couple clips here in just a second. But before I get to that, let me tell you what they didn't discuss and what Joe Rogan didn't ask about, okay? Right off the rip, he did not ask about Katie Johnson, the 13-year-old who accused Trump and Epstein of rape and had a very specific and detailed story. He also didn't ask about any of the other specific Trump-Epstein files claims. In fact, he let J.D. Vance get away with saying, oh, I've never seen any credible evidence against Trump when it comes to Epstein and when it comes to underage girls. More on that in a minute, okay? But totally let him slide on that. They didn't discuss corruption in the White House. Not even a little bit. There's roughly 35 different stories you could pick from exposing the most insane, over-the-top corruption that makes Nancy Pelosi and Hunter Biden look like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Rogan didn't ask a single question about any of the corruption. Rogan didn't ask about the U.S. bombing a little girls' school in Iran. He also didn't ask about the U.S. bombing a hospital in Iran, which happened the same fucking day that he had J.D. Vance on the podcast. Okay? He also didn't ask about Venezuela and Trump stealing the oil and the gold from there and putting the money in a private account that only he controls in Qatar. He didn't ask about the ballroom or the reflecting pool or the Trump Kennedy Center or Trump's name on an airport or Trump putting his face on fucking passports. He didn't ask about any of that. None of the vanity project, which is obviously something that Trump cares about more than anything else. He didn't ask about the ICE murders or ICE being a Gestapo police force. He didn't ask about the president's health, which clearly he's engaged in a cover-up right now, trying to hide the fact that he's got serious health problems, whether it be mini strokes or Alzheimer's or congestive heart failure or whatever. He didn't ask about Doge cutting programs like cancer research and screwworm, which has now erupted back onto the scenes and is causing havoc in the cattle industry and the beef industry. He didn't ask about cyclospora, which is the fecal parasite currently ripping through this country, brought to you directly by RFK Jr. and Donald J. Trump and their deregulation agenda. He didn't ask about any of this stuff, bro. None of this stuff. It's fucking pathetic. By the way, don't tell me you're independent media. There's nothing independent about you. You're online media, you're new media, but you're not by any stretch of the imagination independent media. What you really are is MAGA media, Joe Rogan. That's what you are. So just an embarrassing showing here. Now, there was one part in the podcast which was kind of funny where J.D. Vance was talking about Joe Biden and how he would eat ice cream all the time. And he said, quote, his staff would get him to eat ice cream in just the most suggestive way possible. What does that mean? Who looks at Joe Biden eating ice cream and they're like, that sure is suggestive. When I see Joe Biden eating ice cream, suddenly I want to get my dick sucked. Like, what are you talking? What's wrong with you? It looks so sensual. It looks, hey, let me find Usha. Let me find a couch that I can fuck real quick. What is wrong with you? What a strange thing to say. So anyway, that very bizarre mental process going on there with him. There's another part where Joe Rogan and J.D. Vance jack each other off over the fact that they think the Democrats are rigging elections. That is fucking rich, considering Trump has now floated like 7 or 8 different theories as to how exactly he's going to steal the 2026 election and the 2028 election. And he's about to give a speech literally tonight where he tries to lie and say China rigged the 2020 election, which is why you got to hand control of the election over to me so I can protect it, aka steal it for myself, right? So they basically go, why would anybody be against voter ID, bro? I don't know, man. Why would they be against voter ID? Oh, I don't know. Did you bother to do 7 seconds of research and find out very quickly? The whole purpose of voter ID is to put multiple hurdles in people's way to lower the number of people who vote, which then in turn would make it skew more Republican. It literally takes 7 seconds of research to look into this. You'll find out right away the real reason why people don't want voter ID. Now, having said that, there is a specific kind of voter ID everybody would be okay with. Number one, it comes with automatic voter registration as soon as you turn old enough to vote. You don't have to sign any fucking paperwork or jump through any hoops. That's point number one. Point number two, the ID immediately gets mailed to you, no questions asked, and it's your ID for life. Okay? In that scenario, everybody would be in favor of voter ID because there's no hurdles in the way preventing people from voting. That is voter disenfranchisement when you try to prevent people from voting. But the reality is that's what Republicans want. They want to disenfranchise voters. Duh. So they didn't even bother to look up. Well, JD Vance knows and doesn't care because he's a liar. He's a fucking Republican con artist. Joe Rogan is just a dumb guy. He's just a fucking meathead who didn't bother to look at any of the specific reasons why voter ID, as the right wants it, is a fucking problem. But like I said, we can all agree to it. If it comes with automatic voter registration, you send out the ID, no questions asked, and is their ID for life. But any oh, you got to go to this place, you got to go to that place, you got to fill out this form, you got to do this thing, you got to do that thing. The purpose of that is to disenfranchise voters, particularly working class people who don't have time to jump through your shitty fucking hoops. But that's the point. They want only wealthy white Republicans to be able to vote. Okay, so we have that as well. Way to hold the powerful accountable there, Joe. Sitting around and feeding into their nefarious policies, which would lead to rigged elections. Phenomenal. Then we have them talking about the Iran war. And on this one, I think Rogan did a fucking piss poor job because there's so much that could have been said that he didn't say properly. He allows JD Vance to babble about how these neocons, all they want is people to bomb. They just want to bomb into oblivion. They don't have a solution. They want to bomb. And, we're not going to do that. We're not going to send our military to do that because me and Trump are smarter than that. Meanwhile, that is literally exactly what's happening the day he's on the podcast. The night before, they bombed for 7 straight hours. They just bombed a fucking children's hospital. And they're acting like, we would never do that, as they literally do that. And he keeps talking about these neocons, presumably talking about people like Mark Levin. What he's not telling you is Donald Trump is acting just like Mark Levin. He's doing everything Mark Levin wants right now. He's acting like the memorandum of understanding is not dead when it's been dead. And Rogan's sitting there and just fucking nodding along. Like, are you going to bring up that the MOU is dead? Are you going to bring up that they just bombed for 7 fucking hours and they just bombed a children's hospital? Are you going to bring that up? Or are you just going to sit there like a fucking idiot with your thumb up your ass? And we know the answer. He sat there like a fucking idiot with his thumb up his ass. It's embarrassing. He allows JD Vance to get away with this notion that, I've always been anti-war. The fuck you have been? There's articles that came out that when the war started, you said, if you're going to go in, go big. In other words, if you're going to do the war, go all the fuck outski. Okay? So what the fuck? And then he goes, oh, we never do something like ground troops. Trump literally said yesterday, I'm not ruling out ground troops. Oh my days. Fucking Joe Rogan, retire, you washed ass bitch. It's so sad. You're so fucking washed, you're washing the vice president's baby nuts on air as you pretend to be an outsider. I'm anti-establishment. I'm an outsider. What a sick, sick joke. Okay, but now let me play this video for you because here's where JD Vance goes, look, man, I've looked at the Epstein files 1,000 ways, and let me tell you this. I've never seen a single piece of credible evidence that Trump ever engaged in wrongdoing. You've got to
what I have seen, and I've looked at most of the files, is that they're just wasn't dispositive evidence. And if that dispositive evidence ever existed, it was probably destroyed after 2006, 2007. Now, again, in our defense, yes, was there some bitching and moaning, and was there some back and forth? Yes. But we eventually collected 6 million documents as part of the effort. The president, people say the president was forced into releasing the documents. Again, the idea that Donald Trump could not have killed that legislation, especially with the United States Senate, is a joke. He absolutely could have killed it. What did he do? He actually said, nope, we're going to release these files. He thought, he was annoyed by the story. He was annoyed by the Democrats accusing him of doing things bad. By the way, do I think there is I've never seen a single piece of credible evidence that the President of the United States engaged in wrongdoing with minors, ever.
So first of all, he was under tremendous political pressure to release the files. That's the only reason he caved, is because everybody was like, you're a fucking pedo protector. Why are you covering for the pedos? Gee, I wonder why he's covering for the pedos. Very difficult one to wrap your mind around. And then when he released the files, what did they do? First, they only released 1% of the files. And by the way, his name was in the files 38,000 times when just the first 1% was released. Then they go, all right, fine, we'll release all of them. They don't release all of them. They release about 50% of them. And in that 50%, they've redacted things they're not legally allowed to redact. And by the way, when they release 50% of the files, overly redacted, mind you, Trump's name is in there over 1 million times. He's literally the #1 referenced person in the Epstein files. Gee, I wonder why. Couldn't be because he's a fucking co-conspirator, could it? So everything he just said there, everything he just said is wrong. He goes, I've never seen any credible evidence that Trump engaged in any wrongdoing. Are you out of your fucking mind? Well, first, here's a video of Trump on Howard Stern's show. Trump used to own Miss Teen USA. Let me repeat that. Miss Teen USA. And listen to what he says in front of the country about what he used to do when he owned that pageant.
Well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
like
everything is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible-looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
So he's admitting to creeping on and spying on teenage girls when they're naked in the dressing room. By the way, strike one, you're out. Ain't no 2 and 3 in this bitch. What an admission. I mean, he's raising his hand and going, I'm a fredophile. Call me Mr. Fredophile. And let's be clear. What J.D. Vance said there is like one of the most shocking lies I think I've ever heard. As if like it's impossible for people to look this up. Now he's relying on Joe Rogan being a fucking meathead and a dipshit and him not looking it up because he endorsed Trump. So he's desperately trying to like cover his own ass here as well. But the fact of the matter is, if anybody looks into it at all, even a little bit, what you'll find very quickly is there's audio of Jeffrey Epstein saying, I was Trump's best friend for a decade. We know from the Epstein files that Trump was on Epstein's plane 8 times. And that's just that we know of. There's probably instances of Epstein going on Trump's plane that's not in the files. Never mind the fact we know he went to the island. That's also in the files. Never mind the fact we know that Trump and Melania, the first time they had sex, was allegedly on the Lolita Express. That's Epstein's pedophile plane. Okay? Epstein knew all the inner workings of Trump's first White House. He was offered a job by Trump in his first White House. Why would Trump offer Jeffrey Epstein a job in fucking 2017? To shut him up with all the dirt that he knew Epstein had on him, okay? Epstein and Trump shared a girlfriend. It's also in the files that he passed off a 20-year-old girl to Trump in 1993, when I guess that girl aged out for Epstein because Epstein liked him extra fucking young. There's talk of a Trump nipple torture fetish in the files, and also, I believe that's part of the Katie Johnson allegations, the 13-year-old who accused Trump and Epstein of raping her and had incredibly specific details in that story. We also know Trump assaulted somebody in Ivanka's bedroom in 1993 with that woman's husband in the next room. And Epstein emailed Michael Wolff about that as well. Okay? Trump wrote that creepy love letter to Epstein. Do I need to go on? Do I need to tell you guys to look into the Trump Princess Riverboat claims? Go look into the Trump Princess Riverboat claims, okay? And have your mind blown by that, okay? What about in 2011? To me, this was the smoking gun where I was like, oh, it's fucking over, okay? In the Epstein files, there's an email from 2011 where Epstein is talking to somebody and the person wanted to know where Trump was. And Epstein goes, oh, he's at my house, and he's been at my house for hours with, and then it's redacted. It's one of the victims. So Trump has been at Epstein's house for hours with one of the victims. Well, anybody who follows the Epstein files knows all of Epstein's houses are bugged. They're bugged to the high heavens. There's audio recording devices in there. There's video recording devices in there. So what that means is there are pictures and videos of Trump with underage girls. Which means that's sitting in a motherfucking Mossad vault that Netanyahu can trot out and use whenever he wants. It's also probably sitting in a KGB vault, and Russia can use that whenever the fuck they want. It also might be sitting in a CIA vault, and this man is deeply, deeply blackmailed. He's blackmailed. He's a blackmailed fredophile, okay? Do I need to tell you about the FBI intake forms where you have the limo driver in Dallas who said Trump talked to Epstein on the phone about abusing girls? Do I need to tell you that Epstein had a full drawer that was dedicated to pictures of Trump? And that when in the Epstein files they released that, they realized the next day, because it went huge online, that, oh shit, we released Epstein having a drawer of Trump pictures. Then they, in a panicked way, they pulled it down to try to hide that it was up there when everybody saw it and they knew it was up there. Do I need to tell you that Mar-a-Lago was subpoenaed in the Ghislaine Maxwell investigation because they thought that was the hub of the child sex trafficking? And we know that multiple girls went from the Mar-a-Lago spa and Trump shipped them over to Epstein with a smile on his face, even though he pretended like, I broke up with Epstein. No, you didn't. You had a temporary hitch in your relationship because you had a fight over a real estate deal. Jesus fucking Christ, man. If you don't know these things about Epstein and Trump, do me a favor. Share this far and wide. Make sure everybody fucking knows these things. Everybody needs to know these things. Okay? Do I need to tell you about the girl named Dusty that Trump allegedly raped and in 2000? And she's from Oklahoma, and she was found with her fucking head blown off, and cops suspected foul play. Do I need to tell you about that? Literally, none of this came up. You have J.D. Vance. I've never seen any credible evidence of Trump with underage girls. And Rogan sits there. Yeah, right. There's only fucking 100 different examples of things. If you actually went through the Epstein files and you give a fuck to find the truth, there's so many examples. If even one of these things is true of Donald Trump, he should be in fucking prison. Just the thing Trump admitted to on fucking Howard Stern's show should land him in prison. Oh my days, what a sick joke, bro. What a sick fucking joke. All right, and then I guess I'll end on this, but there's also this moment, just so sad, so pathetic, where J.D. Vance, he knows what he's doing, right? Like, they are using Joe Rogan. They're using Joe Rogan to whitewash their image. He is part of their ass-covering strategy. That's obvious to everybody who's paying attention. And so J.D. Vance goes, I've said I'm going to look into that UFO thing. I've been saying that for about a year and a half, but I still haven't done it because I haven't had the time. But like, bro, I'm going to be on that UFO thing. You know what I'm saying, bro? This is literally like, yeah, UFOs. You idiots fucking care about this, right? Hey, here's some fucking slop I'm going to throw. UFOs, look at that. Don't look at the other shit. What are you talking about? So let me reiterate. Let me repeat this. Here's what Joe Rogan didn't ask J.D. Vance about. He had the vice president of the United States sitting across from him. He didn't ask about any Epstein allegations against Trump. He didn't ask about any of the 30-plus different immense corruption scandals involving Trump and his family. Meanwhile, Rogan will bring up Hunter Biden and Nancy Pelosi 53 times on any given podcast. They're fucking angels and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts next to Trump and his crime family, okay? Asked about none of the corruption scandals. Didn't ask at all about the U.S. bombing schools and hospitals in Iran, even though the girls' school being bombed was a huge fucking story. And that same day J.D. Vance was there, the U.S. bombed a kid's hospital in Iran. Didn't ask about Trump toppling the government of Venezuela and stealing their oil and stealing their gold. Didn't ask about the ballroom or any of Trump's vanity projects. Didn't ask about the ICE murders and ICE being the Gestapo and building concentration camps. Didn't ask about the president's health cover-up. Didn't ask about Doge cutting programs like cancer research and the program for screwworm, which now has destroyed the beef market in this country. And didn't ask about fucking the fecal parasite that's making people shit their brains out across this country because of Trump and RFK's deregulation. That's what they didn't fucking talk about. So what a sick joke. He's not independent media, not remotely. He's new media because he's online, but he's also MAGA media. And he's so fucking washed and he's fallen so far from grace that he's basically the ball washer of the baby nuts of the pathetic eyeliner-wearing vice president.
All right, welcome to the show, y'all. It is Thursday, July 16th, and I have a jam-packed show for you. So in just a second, Democrats have surged into a colossal lead for the midterms that you have to see to believe. I'm going to show you all that. There's this category of voter called double haters, and basically what that means is they think both parties ain't shit. And when you ask them, okay, you hate both parties, but who are you going to vote for? Wait until you see this stuff, man. It is crazy. Also, the war is just tanking whatever remained of Trump's popularity. People despise what's going on with that. We also have, it is now being fully exposed and illuminated and highlighted just how much Donald Trump is corrupt and taking bribes. And the pay for a pardon scheme is all coming unglued right in front of our eyes. So we have an amazing story on that. Later on, Trump personally snuffs out the Epstein Zorro Ranch investigation that New Mexico's Attorney General is doing. And needless to say, it's because we know where all the bodies are buried. We know the skeletons in his closet. They are numerous, to say the least. And then later on, we have Alex Jones and Nick Shirley have an idiot competition. And man, that's a real duel right there. That's a real battle of the minds right there. So you guys know the drill, man. Everybody do me a big favor. Subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon. That helps the show out big time and costs you nothing at all. You can also support the show on Patreon. As you all know, if you just give $1 $1 a month or $2 a month, that goes a very long way. Remember, this is real independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser. I've never done an ad read. I've been doing this full time since 2012, and you have my word that I will never talk to an advertiser or do an ad read. But you guys support the show from the ground up, man. It's your support and the default ads on YouTube. That's all we do. We also have, of course, Crystal Kyle and Friends. You could sign up for that as well. Link below. And go sub to Corin's World. Yesterday was Corin's birthday, so go give him a birthday sub if you haven't yet. Let's try to have him gain a couple thousand subscribers. I'm sure that'll make his day if you do that. But all right, let's go ahead and jump right in, y'all. So take a look at this. Strength in Numbers and Verisight released a poll, and it's double haters, okay? I actually kind of love this term. It's basically like when you talk to people and they say, yeah, I hate the Democrats and I hate the Republicans. They both are pieces of shit. But then you ask them like, okay, well, who are you going to actually vote for though when push comes to shove? And the result is 55% supporting Democrats and only 29% supporting Republicans. Now, I'm no mathematician, but I believe that's a 26-point lead among the double haters, which is absolutely catastrophic. And naturally, MAGA is going to freak out over this fact. So I also wanted to show you, apparently this is a group that has always been, to one extent or another, sort of pro-democratic, but now the number is just way more extreme than it was before. So here, let me read this to you. Americans have never liked their political parties less. Pew found in May that 26% of adults now hold an unfavorable view of both parties, the highest share in more than 3 decades of asking the question, and more than 4 times the comparable percentage in 1994. Damn. So that means everybody feels like the system is more broken today than it was in 1994. The averages at 50+1 show both parties sitting around 15 points underwater on favorability, and neither has been above water in years. Over the last few election cycles, analysts have become obsessed with how these double haters vote. In 2016 and 2024, Donald Trump won voters who had an unfavorable opinion of both him and his opponent by double digits. So Trump beat Hillary and Trump beat Kamala by double digits with people who said, I don't really like both of them, but they broke overwhelmingly for Trump in those instances. This is according to exit polls. He also won them in 2020, but the group was a much smaller slice of the electorate then. So now in 2026, in their June poll, Strength in Numbers and Verisight, they asked 2,000 Americans to rate both parties on a 0 to 100 feeling thermometer. 0 is cold and 100 is warm towards the party, okay? About 1 in 5 registered voters put both parties below 50. This is the group that they'd call double haters, okay? So they go on to say, our poll shows double haters favor Democrats for 2026 by 26 points, while everyone else splits about evenly. Democrats led by 2 among voters who like at least one party. If you do the math on the generic ballot, currently Democrat plus 7 is our poll. This means that the double haters are responsible for about 80% of the party's national margins. That's incredible. So in other words, this is a very electorally important group, is what they're saying here. So it's not just these double haters that are super important in terms of as a demographic. As you all know, Trump made massive gains in 2024 with young people in particular. It was young people, it was independents, it was actually Hispanic voters. He picked up with those groups. And, you know, Republicans started feeling high on their own supply, thinking, oh, this is awesome, like this is a new electorate. But the fact of the matter is, now they bled all that support back and then some. Young people hate him, independents hate him, Hispanics fucking hate him. So all of them have turned. Plus you get the double haters that hate both parties that are going, I'm going to support the Democrats way more by 26-point margin compared to Republicans. But now let's look at the Strait of Hormuz and foreign policy and how that is affecting Donald Trump. Let's listen to this. Here we go.
How's the president doing on foreign policy?
Bad. In 2024 versus Kamala Harris, foreign policy was a strength for this president. He was trusted more in foreign policy than Kamala Harris by a 10-point margin. Among independents, he was trusted more by 14 points. Come over to this side of the screen. The net approval now on foreign policy in 2026. Down he goes, right into the Strait of Hormuz. Look at this. 22 points in the negative direction, a minus 22-point net approval rating. That is a drop of over 30 points. And among independents, he is now at minus 30 points. You know I love those notes at the bottom of the screen, Johnny B. So that is a movement of 44 points among independents. Foreign policy, which was a strength for this president during the 2024 campaign, has become a weakness for him here in 2026, leading up to this midterm campaign.
Now, also, party identification, we discussed that the other day. That was a metric that for the first time in my lifetime peaked for Republicans in the 2024 election, where like they had a slight edge over Democrats nationally, where more people self-identified as Republican than Democrat, okay? They squandered that and then some. We're now back to the point where it's like an Obama-like margin. I believe Democrats, depending on which poll you look at, they're leading by double digits when it comes to party identification, which is just, I mean, that's astonishing, bro. That is astonishing to be leading by double digits when it comes to party identification. So in every measurable way, we're at the point now where if you had the election today and you had Biden versus Trump or you had Kamala Harris versus Trump, it wouldn't even be close. It would be a blowout and a half. You would have the Democrats easily getting back in power. In fact, this just came out from Harris X, who had a better economy among independent voters. Biden, 59%. Trump, 41%. All of the things that people said, oh, Biden was bad on this thing, like inflation, for example. They say, oh, inflation was really bad under Biden, and that's why Democrats struggled. Trump is doing way worse on that metric than Joe Biden did. You name the issue, you name the topic, and I will show you how Republican support has collapsed. People are pissed. People are blaming them. People are defaulting to the Democrats. Now, by the way, let me be clear. This is not to say the Democrats are doing a great job, because they're not. They're actually floundering in many respects. But Republicans are so atrocious and so evil and so terrible that people look at the political landscape and they go, well, obviously I'm going to go with the adult in the room, the Democrat, over any Republican in this country, because it is very clear they're a fucking death cult. It's very clear they're going down with the Titanic, known as Donald Trump. So this is just, it's getting overwhelming, right? It's getting overwhelming. And this is exactly why you see Trump losing it and effectively trying to rig the midterms, effectively trying to put a thumb on the scale for 2028, trying to get the voter data from each state respectively, trying to do ballot purging and ballot spoiling, trying to, set up plans. He's given a speech tonight, actually, which is supposed to be about, election security or whatever. And there's speculation that he's going to try to say, oh, the Georgia senators are now nullified because I declare there was fraud in Georgia in 2024. So they're going to try to take it, or 2020. They're going to try to take it from Warnock and Ossoff. And again, I'm telling you, listen, if I know anything about Trump, he refuses to acknowledge when he loses, period. That's this guy's whole personality. He's a liar, he's a cheater, he's a con man. He refuses to acknowledge when he loses. There's stories about him when it's the golf course, right? And he goes and plays in an event and he loses. It's a team event, a golf team event. He plays with Bill Clinton and Michael Bloomberg and somebody else. They lose the team event, and Trump went into the clubhouse and demanded he get a low net as an individual. And they said, sir, we don't have that in this tournament. This is a team event. This isn't an individual event. He's like, you better find a way to get me a trophy for a low net individual, because he refused to hold an L. This is the kind of guy we're talking about here. So you think he's just going to go quietly into the sunset if his party gets historic losses in 2026 or 2028? No, they're going to do everything they possibly can to try to prevent that from happening. And they're going to get as unethical as possible. It's going to be illegal. They're going to do all sorts of atrocious stuff. But just understand where the actual pulse of the country is. Because when you look at these numbers, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. These people are primed to get blown the fuck outski. There's no way around that.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
All right, y'all. So there's this well-known Southern rapper by the name of Boozy Badass. And, man, did he fuck up royally. Because he got conned, he got scammed by a bunch of MAGA losers who have a track record of being criminals, by the way. And he was trying to do the pay-for-a-pardon scheme that so many other wealthy people in this country have used. The way it works is you go on down to Mar-a-Lago. You have a friend or family member or lawyer or money person go down to Mar-a-Lago for you, and you say, how much? And Trump will say, okay, you want a pardon for that? $500K. You want a pardon for this? $1 million. You want a pardon for that? $1.3 million. You want a pardon for that? I don't know, Diddy? That's going to be like $6 million, bro. Like, we're going to charge you a lot because, I'm going to take some heat for this shit. But this is what he's doing, right? This is what he's doing. This is why, as they're doing this, like, fraud crackdown in Minnesota, going after Somalis and pretending like they're a huge problem, at the same time, he's pardoned dozens of white-collar fraudsters who committed a tremendous amount of fraud, like billions of dollars in fraud when you add it all up. So it's very obvious what's going on here. Well, Boozy just blew the lid off this whole shit because he came out and said the quiet part loud, okay? So he tweets the following, ready? Laura Loomer, Mike Cernovich, Jack Posobiec, Erica Kirk, Mike Johnson, Nancy Mace, Andy Biggs. Can the names above please make a truthful statement about having contact or no contact with Berkman and Wohl about my pardon process? $600,000 was taken from me with your names mentioned and emails by these people. Thanks. So according to Boozy, he's like, I talked to this right-wing hack and this right-wing hack and this right-wing hack and this right-wing hack. Now, by the way, it's kind of a cell phone too because he's acknowledging he's committing a crime here. He's acknowledging like, yes, the high-profile bribery I just engaged in with you all. Okay, well, that's a crime. You're admitting the crime as you're saying, like, I was conned. Yeah, you were conned, but you were also doing something illegal as well, right? But he's calling all them out, saying all you motherfuckers are implicated in this, right? Which could bring legal consequences eventually, not now. Under Trump, crime is legal if you're a Republican, right? But he's calling them all out and saying, what the fuck? So this guy, Jacob Wohl, he's a known con artist. He's a known scammer. He's committed a number of scams. I think he's actually been found guilty of multiple scams. So clearly, Boozy didn't do his fucking research, gave Wohl this money. I don't know how these other people were involved, but he's saying these other people were involved. And instead of having these actual connections, he was lying. Jacob Wohl's probably on the outs with MAGA because he even crosses the line for many of them, and he's probably scammed many of them. And so you just got bro. You just got. Like, it's that simple. You got. But man, this is getting juicy because I love the fact that he called out all these individuals. And then you had like Laura Loomer replied and said like, Mr. Badass, I certainly do not know what it is you speak of. I would love to help you, but we have never even had a conversation before. Like, bro, I see through all of you. I have no doubt there was some degree of communication between these different people and Boozy. And, he's just showing all the dirt. That's what he's doing. He's showing all the dirt. But everybody here is acknowledging and admitting to a crime. So here's a video from Robert Reich, who laid out, this is about a year ago. He laid out, hey, here's what's going on. Here's why Trump is doing all these wild-ass pardons. It is corrupt. It is a pay-to-play scheme. And he's pardoning some of the biggest criminals in the country. Watch this. Here we go.
It's a wonderful time to be a criminal. If you cozy up to Donald Trump, that is. Trump has been using his presidential power to shield his allies and donors from legal trouble, while his Department of Justice goes after his political enemies. Is this the same guy?
I am your president of law and order.
Who has he pardoned so far? Trevor Milton, the former CEO of an electric car company, was convicted of securities and wire fraud. During his appeal, he donated heavily to Trump's re-election campaign. Oh, and one of Milton's lawyers was the brother of Pam Bondi, the future U.S. Attorney General. Another pardon was for Todd and Julie Chrisley, fellow reality TV personalities. They were convicted of tax evasion and bank fraud totaling $36 million. Maybe the pardon has something to do with their daughter's speech at the Republican National Convention.
Donald J. Trump has only one conviction that matters, and that is his conviction to make America great again.
Your parents are going to be free and clean, and I hope we can do it by tomorrow.
Next up, Paul Walczak, a nursing home executive who was charged with defrauding the government of millions of dollars, using some of the money to buy himself a yacht. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 18 months in prison. A judge defended the sentence, saying there isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card for wealthy people. Not so fast, Your Honor. Walczak's mother is a major Trump donor who attended a $1 million plate fundraising dinner at Mar-a-Lago. Less than 3 weeks later, Trump signed a full and unconditional pardon for her son. Not only did it keep Walczak out of prison, it got him out of paying $4.4 million in restitution. In fact, Trump's thumb on the scales of justice as he raised roughly $1.3 billion in fines and restitution that pardon recipients would have paid their victims and the government. And it's not just individuals either.
By the way, that adds insult to injury. Not only were you conned, not only were you defrauded, but at the same time, a court says This person's going to prison and they owe you restitution. They got to pay you back the money they stole you and then some probably, right? And Trump goes in there and says, total pardon, unconditional, and also I'm wiping out the restitution that you have to pay. So since you gave him $1 million or whatever it is through Mar-a-Lago, therefore he's like double conning the victims. It's a whole nother round of a con of the victims. Because they get their hopes up, the person goes to prison, they're going to get paid back, and then boom, all that is taken away in a fucking instant. All because of bribery, open bribery. I don't want to hear another fucking word ever again about Hunter Biden or Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden or fucking Burisma or whatever the fuck. This guy, on a random Tuesday, has done more corruption and bribery than any Democrat has over 4 years or 8 years in power. I don't want to fucking hear it.
The administration has paused or dropped investigations into at least 17 corporations that donated to his inauguration fund. You see the pattern? Do something for Trump, and maybe Trump does something for you. Buttering up Trump has proven so lucrative, allies and lobbyists are reportedly receiving multi-million-dollar payouts to get pardon requests in front of the president. One was quoted as saying, "It's like the Wild West. You can basically charge whatever you want." Now, nearly every U.S. president has issued pardons that were controversial, but Trump's pardons almost exclusively go to people serving his political interests. The most extreme examples, Trump's pardon of rioters and violent criminals who participated in the January 6th insurrection, including members of the Proud Boys.
The people of January 6th were treated very unfairly.
Trump is sending a message that you can commit violence as long as it's done in service of him. And who decides which pardons get in front of the president? That would be Ed Martin, Trump's top pardon attorney. Historically, this role at the Justice Department has been non-political, but Martin is a staunch MAGA ally. And Martin isn't just in charge of recommending pardons to Trump. He's also simultaneously serving as head of the Justice Department's new weaponization working group. This group was tasked by Trump with targeting his supposed enemies, including prosecutors who put January 6th criminals behind bars and anyone else viewed as a threat to the MAGA regime. Trump is blatantly weaponizing the justice system to attack his political enemies, while rewarding his crooked allies and those who will commit violence on his behalf. So much for law and order. Understand what's really going on here.
Has anybody ever really tried to reconcile what's going on here with Trump? Like, that's the thing is, I don't even know if they bother to mount a defense. So you have Boozy Badass trying to get a pardon. And, like, there's a track record of Trump giving pardons to people in the rap game. Like, I don't know if you guys remember this, but in Trump's first term, he pardoned Kodak Black. Do you think Trump is, like, a fan of Kodak Black's music? Is that what it is? He had, like, gun charges or something like that. Lil Wayne also had gun charges. I believe in the second term, I think he pardoned NBA YoungBoy. Like, does Trump have the same music taste as, like, a 21-year-old black guy in the hood? No! Like, this is literally all directly because you have the agents of these people reaching out. They know how to get, word out to Mar-a-Lago. They meet with Trump. How much do you need? And again, like, literally even just one of these pardons would be an impeachable offense. Just one of them. But he's had a laundry list of shit. Dozens, hundreds of pay for pardons, and we're all acting like it's normal. Well, now it's like, it's undeniable now. Now you have a rapper literally saying, I was paying to get a pardon, and the shit went sideways, and like, here's all the people who know about it. Here's who stole my money. Like, Boozy, you fucked up. You needed your agent or somebody like that to make the connections for you, right? You can, like, I bet Jacob probably DM'd him on Instagram or some shit and was like, hey, give me $600,000, I'll get you a pardon. He's like, all right. Like, obviously he didn't go through the proper channels, but all this shit is wildly illegal. All of it. And it just goes to show you, like, to Republicans, the law, it doesn't matter. Like, they always scream about law and order, we're tough on crime. No, you guys give yourself a pass to do all the crime. I mean, you despise law and order. You guys think you can get away with anything and everything because you control the government right now. But just remember, all this stuff is being tracked, and there's going to come a time where we're back in power. I don't know when it's going to be, but there will come a time when we're back in power. And the amount of damage an Attorney General Jack Smith could do on this criminal MAGA project, whoo, it would be something special to witness. Something super special. So, I don't know. Is there any way, you guys tell me, I'm not a lawyer. Is there any way that you can have, like, state level charges over this bribery, right? Can that happen? State level charges? Or do we have to wait until we have control of the federal government and then take action? But, like, the number of crimes, this isn't an exaggeration. The number of crimes Trump commits on a daily basis are so far above and beyond what any other previous president commits in like a year. You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe only rivaled by George W. Bush, who's also a war criminal and a torturer and all that stuff. But I mean, on the financial front, there's way more corruption and bribery and all sorts of schemes and plots under Trump than there was even under George W. Bush. So wake up, everybody. They can't make it any more clear what's going on here.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
So MAGA has been completely and utterly infiltrated in the worst possible way, and I got to break this down here for you. So Dropsite News says the following. According to Time magazine, Trump's former campaign manager runs an Israeli influence op targeting the MAGA base. U.S. officials became concerned after MAGA influencers posted similar attacks on Trump's June 17th ceasefire agreement with Iran, often using nearly identical language at roughly the same time. Some shared an Israeli op-ed titled, "You could have been the greatest president of all, but you failed." Others circulated the same video appearing to show Qatar's prime minister snubbing President J.D. Vance, arguing that regional powers were dismissing the Trump administration's naivete. Several accused Trump of surrendering without eliminating Iran's nuclear program. Officials tracing the post came to suspect a wider influence network linked to Brad Parscale, Trump's former campaign manager. I believe that guy's a literal criminal too, right? FARA filings previously reported by Responsible Statecraft show Parscale's Clock Tower X agreed to produce pro-Israel content, distributing messaging through conservative media networks, and influence how AI systems, including ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, characterize Israel and its wars. Hold the fuck up. Hold the fuck up. So not only is it a coordinated pro-Israel campaign that they're paid to do on social media with all their little fucking networks where they're all in group chats and they all send out similar shit at the same time, but they're trying to rig the game when it comes to AI, where you ask a question about Israel to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whoever, and it gives you like a politically correct answer that sanitizes Israel? Oh my word, bro. Oh my days. What? New reporting from Time cites sources who said firms linked to Parscale distributed suggested messaging to conservative influencers through private group chats, with some creators paid based on their posts, reach, and engagement. Time names the Yak Boy as an influencer paid by Parscale link firm. How many times did I go out there and say, you guys can check on my Twitter, although I don't know if the search feature still even functions at all. But the number of times I said that Yak Boy is an Israeli op is uncountable. I've said it so many times. And now it's literally directly proven that the Yak Boy is an Israeli op. By the way, this goes hand in hand with, remember when Netanyahu was caught on video talking to influencers, and he was saying that, like, hey, the next front in our war is on the battlefield of social media and online. And what we're going to do is we're going to flood the zone. And we're going to get our narrative out there, and we're going to work the refs, and we're going to defeat our enemies. So there's this natural organic wave of anti-Israel sentiment based on what they've done to Gaza and Lebanon and how they've just been generally horrible. And their idea is, let's harass all the social media platforms. Let's try to ban people who are pro-Palestinian and anti-genocide. Let's have people like their allies, the Ellisons, buy TikTok and other social media outlets, by CNN, by CBS. So let's rig the game, get people in there favorable to us, rig the rules, ban people who say things we don't like. Let's get biased answers through the AI programs, and let's pay an army of brainless influencers who are paid hacks to just regurgitate our propaganda. All right, so take a look at this. Eitan Fishburger, I should say. That's an unfortunate last name. Eitan Fishburger? Okay. Look how Qatar's prime minister totally snubs and embarrasses VP Vance. Qatar is an enemy state. It spits on American sovereignty and laughs at the naivete of its leaders. Time to treat Qatar like the Islamist hellscape dictatorship that it is. Watch Qatar snub Vance. So embarrassing. While J.D. Vance is busy getting embarrassed in Switzerland, could real Donald Trump possibly be back? Only time will tell. Yeah, so this is, it's a coordinated effort. Dropsite says, according to Time, Israel and the Trump administration both reportedly unhappy with Brad Parscale's influence campaign, which was meant to strengthen support for Israel among conservatives. Quote, "We are pissed at Brad Parscale," an Israeli official told Time. "He was supposed to make things better. We have paid him lots of money, but what did he do with it? Things have only gotten worse." Time cited Pew data showing just 32% of Americans now view the Israeli government favorably, the lowest level in decades. Among young Republicans, 57% held an unfavorable unfavorable view of Israel in April, up from 50% a year earlier. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you have to do when support for your country has imploded, when there is no organic support, when everybody hates you, when they realize we're fighting wars for you, when they realize you've infiltrated our government through the Israel lobby and you've bought our politicians and you're rigging everything in your favor. The organic sentiment is one that's anti-Israel, is one that's anti-genocide. And so what they do is they buy support. And this is just like, what was it? I forget the specifics, but there was another Israeli influence operation that was outed. I believe it was by The Intercept or Lee Fong, and they say that, you know, people were getting paid like $7,000 per post or something like that, up to $7,000 per post or $8,000 per post. And it would depend on how wide your reach is and how many followers you have and stuff. But understand something, guys. This is a harbinger of things to come, right, in this new economy. Because people have realized the power of, you know, new media figures, independent media figures, social media voices. And so what they're going to try to do is astroturf now and try to pay people to push their narrative. And so you have to be very diligent when looking around and figuring out who to take seriously, because we're going to get to the point, if we're not already there, we're going to get to the point where the majority of the people giving an opinion online who have a decent-sized following are basically just bought and owned, right? I mean, you can see it now. All the money people take from corporations and billionaires or think tanks, and you know, they cut one way or another way directly because of that. When everybody says the exact same thing, a red flag is when everybody says the exact same thing after some event, where it's like, wait, that would not happen naturally. Well, that's because it's not natural. It's a thing that they're all paid. They're all in the same group chats. They're all, you know, orchestrating it. And so you got to be very careful, bro. Like I said, you guys know how we fund this show. This show is all small dollar donations and the default ads on YouTube, and that's it. And I'm very proud of that fact. You know, we won't be bought because I've literally never done an ad read. I never will do an ad read. I've never talked to an advertiser. I've certainly never talked to a think tank or a government or a billionaire or anything like that. Never going to happen. And so, like, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in how we run this shit. But there's going to be a lot of people in this space who it's the exact opposite. They'll take money from any fucking Tom, Dick, or Harry out there, any fucking corporation, any billionaire, any foreign government that wants to throw money at them. Remember the Tim Pool scandal and the fucking Dave Rubin scandal where, you know, Lauren Chen with Tenet Media took a bunch of money directly from the Russian government, then gave that money to Tim Pool and Dave Rubin, and they made a tremendous amount of money for like just a video every now and then. Oh, would you look at that? Turns out Tim Pool was saying like Ukraine is the enemy of the United States of America at the same time he's getting paid by the Russian government. They're all going to be hacks. If they're not hacks now, they're all going to fucking be hacks. And now, you know, a MAGA influence op where they're all sucking off Israel, doesn't that say it all? These people are all hired. They're mercenaries. They're for hire. And so you can buy an opinion off them, which means all this shit is astroturf. Nobody's telling you what they actually think. Nobody's telling you the truth. And you need to be aware of that. You need to be aware of these psychological operations. And understand it's only going to get worse. The more the reality settles in that Israel committed genocide and live streamed it, the more they will work overtime to try to bust up that consensus and try to steer everybody in a different direction and try to censor and deplatform and try to boost their voices of liars, paid liars. So look, I'm at the point now where you see anybody saying some pro-Israel shit, just assume they're fucking paid for it because they probably are.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
All right, so we got to talk about this. Jubilee had some sort of a debate here. This doesn't look like the typical surrounded thing, but then again, I don't know. I don't really watch this shit regularly. But guy here by the name of Evan James is going to be the left-winger here, and he's going to go back and forth with a new Ben Shapiro protege. I believe he's a new Daily Wire hire, and he's a black, seemingly teenager or early 20s protege of Ben Shapiro, and this guy is gonna give the game away here in the first clip I've ever seen of him, right? And the game is, well, I'm hired by Ben Shapiro, and so I'm going to support Israel no matter what. And so here he's going to make an argument as to why the bombing of children was actually okay. So, just crazy, but this is where we are now. This is what the new media environment is, right? All the Daily Wire paid hacks. I mean, we just got finished talking about the MAGA paid Israeli influence op that was outed by Time Magazine. This is similar to that, right? Like if you're hired by the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro, that's literally like, the same shit, like pro-Israel operation, right-wing garbage operation, and they hire this guy to work backwards from his conclusion and say the most atrocious things you've ever heard. So let's listen, and then we'll break it down.
Do you think it was horrific when a U.S. Tomahawk missile struck a girls' school in Manab, Iran, and Donald Trump can't even admit fault for that? He attempted to suggest that the U.S. Tomahawk missile might have been from one of our adversaries.
Right, so can I respond to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so during war, there's something called civilian casualties during conflict.
Oh my God.
And so in every single war...
The reaction from everybody around it, like, oh no, are we really doing this shit again? Watch the reaction again.
War, there's something called civilian casualties during conflict.
Oh my God.
And so in every single war, laugh it off.
Yeah, and during
emotional.
yeah, and during uprisings,
let me respond.
well.
Let me respond, please. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a difference between, like, for example, you know that at least you got it right. Manab, Iran, specifically a coastal city in Iran. That school was right next to what? And on what day, by the way?
Okay.
So right next to a naval base. Right next to a naval base, and it was actually
we don't
on
have
Saturday.
schools on bases in the United States.
Can I finish?
Do we not
Can I
have?
finish?
Do we have schools on bases in the United States?
I'm going to add context to what I just said as well.
So it's a yes or no question. Do we have schools on bases in the United States?
Calm down. So I'm adding context to what actually happened.
To answer this
because I
question,
think that when we're talking about
you're
civilians
going to
dying
refuse to
during
answer the
conflict,
question.
you got to let me finish. Got to be back and forth here.
Well, it's a yes or no.
We're talking about civilians dying during conflict. An important thing that we should focus on is the intent. Is the government that is actually conducting these airstrikes trying to mitigate civilian harm, or are they being negligent? So the factors were not only that it was obviously right next to a naval base,
horrific?
And on top of that.
So in the same way that Coleman Hughes is like the young black knockoff version of Sam Harris, this guy's the young black knockoff version of Ben Shapiro. And he's doing this whole shtick about intent. Well, here's the fact of the matter. They triple tapped that school. Triple tapped it. They bombed it 3 fucking times. Okay? And it turns out it was a school, but it was the school that had kids of IRGC insiders. So the government of Iran, their insiders had little girls who went to that school. And so what happened here is they bombed it on purpose. That's what it is. There's zero evidence to indicate anything other than that this was a message being sent. We will stop at nothing to defeat you. We will kill your little girls if need be. That's what it is. Anybody who says otherwise is just simply making it up. They're assuming good intent where there's no reason to assume good intent. In what other context would you say, oh, I'm sure Donald Trump and Pete Kegsbreath meant really well? The same people who go out there and say stuff like, we're going to annihilate an entire civilization of people, right? They're all of a sudden, they're going to go, oh, I would never hurt their civilians, even though I call for doing that every day. So, but he's doing the whole like, well, actually, since our intent is always good by definition, therefore it doesn't count when we kill innocent people, but when they kill innocent people, they mean it because they're comic book evil villains. Or you haven't yet acknowledged the very obvious reality that our government right now is packed full of comic book villains. And that's a you problem. That's not an us problem.
Or are they being negligent? So the factors were not only that it was obviously right next to a naval base,
horrific?
And on top of that, you're interrupting me again, right? It was also on a Saturday. So there's also like cultural factors on whether or not on why they would think that there probably isn't a school day, right? Because in America we typically don't have school days on Saturdays, right?
Oh, you
agree?
Wait,
so the defense is obviously the people declaring war on Iran and carpet bombing don't know the first thing about Iran. Did no research whatsoever. Don't understand the first thing about their society. That's not remotely a defense. That's as dumb as, Bush not knowing that there were Sunni and Shia in Iraq when he illegally started the Iraq War.
So the negligence of these people not knowing whether or not there's children in a school in Iran on a Saturday.
Wars aren't perfect.
Wars aren't perfect, he says, when we murdered 160 plus little girls. Could you imagine his reaction being that if it was a elementary school here that got bombed with 160 kids being killed? There's a 0% chance he would react with the same sort of nonchalant, casual, blasé reaction. Why? Because we count, we matter, they don't. We're the goodies, they're the baddies. And this is what you have to believe to be hired by fucking Ben Shapiro in the year 2026. You have to be a total cuck to Israel and a total cuck to neocon warmongers. With your fucking fake intellectual bit. Jesus Christ.
In a school in Iran on a Saturday?
Wars aren't perfect.
Yeah.
Name a single war without accidental civilian casualties.
Yeah, well,
for example, friendly fire happening.
But this is why, circling back, why war has to be a last resort. And you can't even demonstrate that the United States has achieved any of its war objectives.
Responded.
So
I have actually. Depletion of the missile stockpile.
How much of the missile?
I'm not going to put a number on it.
Yeah, exactly. So if one missile was depleted, is that considered a depletion?
If
one missile was depleted,
can I respond?
How many? Give me an estimate. Give me a percentage estimate.
If I give you a percentage, will you estimate it? Estimates over 50%.
Okay.
Fact check it.
Evan, so I see that you pushed the button and sudden death. So this is serious. All right, what claim would you like to fact check?
U.S. classified intel reports, as reported by the New York Times,
No, just say what you're saying.
Suggest that 70%
What's
of
the
Iran's
claim, though?
My claim was that Iran's missile stockpile has been
depleted
depleted.
by 50%.
Hold on. By more, I specifically said more than 50%.
Good. Okay.
Boom. That's it.
Okay. Mine is that they maintain 70% of their missile stockpile, as reported by the New York Times, according to a classified report.
Okay, we'll see.
U.S. intelligence shows Iran retains substantial missile capabilities. Secret new assessments say Iran has operational access to 30 of its 33 missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz, suggesting that its military remains far stronger than President Trump has asserted. Iran still fields about 70% of its mobile launchers across the country and has retained roughly 70% of its pre-war missile stockpile, according to the assessments. This is what happens, and this is why there's that old saying, reality has a well-known liberal bias or reality has a well-known left-wing bias. When you actually hold these people to account, when you actually look at the details and the specifics, they're wrong every time and we're right every time. It's not even close. Shout out to him for knowing this. Again, I'll just give you Evan James. Shout out to Evan James for knowing this, for calling him on it. And honestly, I'm having flashbacks to when Dave Rubin did Jubilee. And like every other fucking thing he said, it would be like fact check wrong, fact check dumb, fact check stupid, fact check most incorrect thing anybody's ever said in human history ever. It would just be one after the other after the other. Wrong. Wrongy McWrongington, wrong. And because they got nothing. They're a bunch of liars. They're a bunch of idiots. They're a bunch of assholes. And there's something these days that is most grating to me is like the fake intellectual bit, right? And this has fallen out of fashion, it's fallen out of style, so it's kind of pathetic that anybody's even trying to do it in the year 2026. Obviously, there's been this idiocracy effect, this like low IQ-ification, particularly on the American right. And so what people want is like a goose-stepping, zig-heiling Nazi like Nick Fuentes, or they want like an unshowered fucking heathen like Asmund Gold to giggle and say Trump is based. They don't want the fake... I'm an intellectual, and I'm gonna put you in your place, and I'm gonna smack your patootie, mister. Like, they don't want that. That's why nobody watches Ben Shapiro anymore. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the fake intellectual bit, the holier than thou, like, I know more than you. It doesn't work because everybody knows. Nobody on the right knows more than anybody on the left. You're all full of shit. You're all wrong about everything. And so now you got the young black version of Ben Shapiro, the young Ben Shapiro protege, and he's trying to do the, here's my claim, and my claim is, wrong. Whatever the fuck it was wrong. So, it's just too perfect. It's 2026. The Daily Wire is imploding in front of us, and their brilliant strategy to save the day is to bring in a young black version of Ben Shapiro. So equally as idiotic and wrong, and equally as grating and pseudo-intellectual, but with none of the standing and none of the following already. So good luck with that. Let me know how that works out for you.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
So CNBC just released a list of the 10 worst states to live in for 2026 in the United States. So look at this. Number 1, the number 1 worst state to live in, they say, Tennessee. Number 2, Texas. Number 3, Indiana. Number 4, Louisiana. Number 5, Georgia. Number 6, Utah. Number 7, Missouri. Number 8, Alabama. Number 9, Oklahoma. Number 10, Arkansas. These are the 10 worst states to live in the U.S. in 2026. We'll talk more in just a second about how they ranked it, like what was their criteria. But suffice to say, depending on how you categorize it here, it's either like 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 of these states are conservative. They're Republican. They're MAGA. So naturally, MAGA was crashing out over this. So Daily B says, MAGA melts down as worst states to live in are revealed. There's a link connecting all the states on the list. Several MAGA and Republican figures are fuming over a list of the 10 worst U.S. states to live in, all of which are red states. CNBC's ranking factored in several quality of life issues. So here's how they ranked it. Healthcare, reproductive rights, crime rates, air quality, civil rights laws, inclusivity, and like broader quality of life type stuff. That's what they did. Based on this methodology, CNBC ranked Tennessee as the worst state to live in the U.S., followed by Texas, Indiana, Louisiana, Georgia, Utah, Missouri, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. By the way, this is not to say that a lot of these states don't have a lot of natural beauty. In fact, I would argue many of them on the list do have a tremendous amount of natural beauty. I brought this up to Crystal, and she was like, I fucking love the state of Tennessee. And it's like, absolutely, it's a gorgeous state. It's just, you wouldn't necessarily want to live there, depending on what you're looking for in your state, right? And they tried to measure it as objectively as possible. And this was the results. Not only are each of these states led by a Republican governor and GOP-controlled legislature, but every state in the top 10 also voted for Trump in the 2024 election. The list published by CNBC on Saturday, which, by the way, CNBC is no liberal outlet, no lefty outlet. If anything, they're center-right. They're very pro-capitalist. But here they are saying, look, it is what it is. So the list published by CNBC Saturday has triggered a full-blown social media meltdown among Trump supporters and Republican figures who made desperate and misleading claims to explain why the red states made the list. Quote, CNBC says the ability to kill unborn babies and engage in woke racism makes states better to live in. Top Trump ally Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, a conservative legal watchdog group, posted on X. Pete Mundo, a conservative Kansas City radio host, added, these are some of the highest inbound migration states in the country, but because you can't abort babies till month 9 and trans your kids at will, it ranks low on the CNBC ranking. MAGA Texas Representative Brandon Gill also suggested the list is wrong based on the population growth some of the states have recorded. If Texas was so bad, people wouldn't be fleeing blue states in droves to move down here. Ryan Fournier, co-founder of the group Students for Trump, described the list as absolute bullshit. Quote, these states have some of the highest business rankings and the best economies in the entire country, he posted. If they are so terrible, then why are Americans constantly fleeing blue states to move to them? I guess people just hate Tennessee and Texas so much that they can't stop packing up their U-Haul and relocating there. Okay, by the way, let me just pause to point out, they are so fucking close to getting it here, but also so far. Because when they say, like, these states have some of the highest business rankings, yeah, that's kind of the problem. Basically, what you're saying is these states are willing to be taken advantage of by corporations and billionaires more than the other states. Yeah, that's kind of the issue. That's kind of why they're worse, isn't it? Is that everything is geared towards, like, favoritism and special treatment and tax cuts and subsidies for these corporations, which are going to pollute the environment, underpay people, and get away with it. Meanwhile, it's not geared towards having, a good infrastructure system for regular people, a good social safety net for regular people. That's kind of the point. This is kind of the point. You're making the point. Businesses love this place. Yeah, and businesses are trying to get to the lowest regulation places possible, right? They want, like, the government to leave them alone and let them do whatever the fuck they want, commit whatever crime they want, pollute however they want, deregulate however they want, cut wages as much as they want, right? Like, this is the idea. And also, it's total cope to be people are moving there. Yeah, okay, well, people move to, like, more inexpensive places during COVID, but now a lot of those places are now becoming more expensive. And also, a lot of this data is outdated when people say, they're moving to these places. Florida now is, a lot of people are leaving Florida now. Florida had a boom, and now that boom has massively subsided. And if anything, it's the opposite. People moved there, and then they were like, I'm moving out this bitch, because they realized they didn't like it as much as they thought they would. So a lot of this is just cope on top of cope on top of cope. Ron DeSantis, an on-again, off-again ally of Trump, also came to Tennessee's defense after it had the dishonor of topping CNBC's list. Quote, if Tennessee was really the worst state to live in, people wouldn't be moving there in large numbers, which they are. Typical nonsense. CNBC stated that it would place increasing emphasis on quality of life when compiling its rankings rather than how attractive a state is for business. Exactly. Quality of place, especially investing in quality of place, is the top thing you can do for talent and attraction and retention, said Larry Gigerich, managing executive director of Genovis in Indianapolis and chairman of the Site Selectors Guild. California Governor Gavin Newsom's press office, which routinely mocks and ridicules Trump online, took delight in the GOP-dominated list of the worst states. Quote, notice something in common, all led by Republicans, many suffering from California derangement syndrome, the account posted. By the way, would you like to take a guess what state was number 1 on the list of best places to live? New York. Some of the most red states are all in the bottom. The top of the list is one of the most blue states in the country. And let's be serious here. And you don't have to take it from me. You don't have to take it from any liberal or any leftist out there, okay? Take it from a guy by the name of Nick Fuentes. Nobody's left-winger, nobody's liberal, nobody's center-right person. This guy is dyed-in-the-wool far-right, okay? And he said it the other day. He said, why the fuck would I want to live in Oklahoma? Why would I want to live there? Somebody said to him, you should go live in Oklahoma. He said, why the fuck would I do that? He said, you know what? I actually like living around liberals. I actually enjoy living around them. And the reason is very simple, right? When you actually look at the numbers, the educational systems in the blue states just absolutely mog the shit out of the red states. It's not even close. People in the blue states have much higher educational attainment, okay? They're the top states for bachelor degrees or higher and overall educational scores. Dominated by blue states. Number 1 in the country, Massachusetts. Number 2, Vermont. Number 3, Maryland. Number 4, Connecticut. Number 5, New Jersey. So blue states have much higher education rates, much lower high school dropout rates. It's just a culture of learning more so than in the red states. Okay? How about healthcare access? That's a big one. They have much lower uninsured rates. Blue states average lower uninsured populations. It's about 6% versus about 10% in red states, partly due to Medicaid expansion, which, by the way, all the red states could have had Medicaid expansion. All they had to do was accept it under Obamacare, but they said no to spite the black president. And as a result of that, there's many poor people who die without health care because they decided to say no to the black president for the sake of saying no to the black president, even though it was nothing to them. Okay? So healthcare access is another big one. Blue states consistently rank higher in the U.S. when it comes to healthcare access. Also, income and economic output per capita. So like GDP, there's a higher median household income and GDP per capita. Blue states have advantages in all of those sorts of metrics, okay? The environment, you have stronger environmental protections, and they perform better in every list on that stuff. Even violent crime, this is one of those things where, you know, you hear all the time Republicans say, oh, we're the tough on crime party. We're the tough on crime party. Democrats are weak on crime, weak on crime. Really, that's interesting because when it comes to violent crime rates, there's lower homicide and murder rates in blue states. So how about that? So again, like, it's just like, what do you value? What do you value? Do you value a functioning society? Do you value having a social safety net? Do you value good infrastructure? Do you value good schools and good hospitals? Do you value being surrounded by people who are reasonable? Or do you value being in the sticks by yourself with no amenities or infrastructure and you're on your own, right? If you fall into that category, granted, okay, you'll be good in rural Tennessee. Go out there and do your damn thing. But if you value any of the other things that we all value in a modern society, well, then I'm sorry. The blue states are just objectively better than the red states, and they could cope and whine and bitch and moan all they want. But deep down, the reason they're flipping out is because they fucking know it. They know it. I mean, what's the thing that like gets people to go to these states? Oh, we'll cut taxes on corporations. Oh, yay! I can't wait to get there. If I was a fucking massive billion-dollar corporation, it'd be great to be in one of these states. Yeah, but you're not. You're a person. And when you actually measure it out objectively, in every way, the blue states are preferable to the red states. And so, doesn't matter what they say, the numbers matter. And like I told you, if we had a national divorce, you would see this even more clearly. You fast forward 50 years, 100 years in the future after the national divorce, the blue states of America would all have universal health care, free college, a living wage, unions for all. We'd have a peaceful foreign policy. We'd have free child care. We'd basically be living in as close to a utopia as possible. It would be like a beautiful, multicultural, diverse version of like the Scandinavian welfare states, right? Like that's what it would look like. And the red states would be an absolute catastrophe. And they would be way worse off. Oh, of course, the biggest fact, I forgot to bring this up, is blue states are net tax payers to the federal government, and red states are net tax receivers. So all that talk from red states about we don't want no parasites, no moochers, nothing like that. Well, you are the parasites. You are the moochers. But if we have that national divorce, man, they would be so beyond cooked, bro. It would be a wrap. and the blue states would be, would be that meme of like everything's futuristic and beautiful. That's what would happen. And I think everybody deep down kind of knows that.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
All right, y'all. So big story dropped, and unfortunately, nowhere near enough people are talking about this, but we're here to break it down for you. So take a look here. Kyle Griffin says, the New Mexico Attorney General's office says Trump's Southern District of New York has refused to provide his office with unredacted Epstein files to aid in its investigation of Epstein's Zorro Ranch. Let me explain what this means. For those of you that don't know, Zorro Ranch was the epicenter of Epstein's criminal syndicate. Okay, it's there, and some argue Mar-a-Lago. It was subpoenaed in the Ghislaine Maxwell investigation as like the heart of the child trafficking. But Zorro Ranch is where the most depraved of the crimes were committed. We're talking about women effectively being kidnapped and held against their will. We're talking about using women or girls to incubate babies, basically. We're talking about Jeffrey Epstein trying to create like a superior race on some Nazi-type shit. Right? Like he was a Jewish supremacist Nazi-type eugenics believer. He invested a lot of money into all these different scientific programs, basically to exercise eugenics ideas. That's who this guy was. And there's also allegedly murders that happened at this Zorro Ranch. In fact, one thing is specifically mentioned in the Epstein files of a murder that happened there. And, they opened up an investigation over exactly that. And so here you have the New Mexico Attorney General's office, and they go to the federal government and they go, look, we're doing this investigation. It's super important. We got a murder going on. We got other things as well. Very disturbing stuff in the Epstein files about this place. And so we would like your cooperation. And the federal government goes, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, whatever. We'll cooperate with you. And then they go, okay. So, they've only released about half of the Epstein files so far, maybe a little more than that. And Trump's name has already been mentioned over 1 million times in the Epstein files. Okay, in the first 1% of the Epstein files, Trump's name was in there 38,000 times. That's not an exaggeration. He's the number one mentioned person in the Epstein files. And so they ask for help. And the federal government goes, yeah, okay, we'll help you. And then they stonewall. They stonewall, they block, they obfuscate, they deflect. And then eventually, the New Mexico Attorney General's office goes, they're not going to fucking work with us here. What they wanted was access to the full unredacted Epstein files. And they got blocked at every single turn. Now, what did I tell you with the roughly half of the Epstein files that were released? This is the definition of what's called a limited hangout. Namely, give some of the information, but you're really hiding the most juicy stuff, okay? And you pretend like you gave all the stuff away. You didn't. You gave away half of it. And you're really hiding the most important stuff. And so now, even with New Mexico's Attorney General saying, you got to share this with us because we need it for our investigation, they're refusing to accommodate. They are refusing to accommodate. And so now, the New Mexico Attorney General, their office is sort of crashing out over this. So here we go. Let's take a look at this. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Dear Acting Attorney General Blanche and Associate Deputy AG Pestana, the New Mexico Department of Justice writes to renew and to make final its demand for access to the complete unredacted investigative records in the custody of the United States Department of Justice, bearing on the trafficking and sexual abuse of vulnerable individuals at Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch. The request is specific and readily achievable. In-person review by NMDOJ, personnel of the unredacted records that Maine Justice already holds, conducted subject to whatever security protocols and confidentiality conditions the US DOJ deems appropriate. All right, so let me pause. What they're saying there is, look, I get that there's some things that are redacted for everybody in the Epstein files, right? And you can keep those redactions, but we need the full files. That's what he's saying. The demand follows more than 5 months of sustained outreach and has been met, where it has been met at all, with production so incomplete as to be functionally non-responsive. Absent access by July 31st, 2026, the NMDOJ will treat this request as denied and will pursue all available legal remedies without further notice. What they're saying there is, if you don't actually comply with what we need for our investigation, we're going to go to the courts and we're going to have the courts demand that you turn that shit over to us. That's what it sounds like is going on here. They continue, the scale of the deficit illustrates why this remedy is necessary. By the U.S. DOJ's own assertions, the department's collection efforts under the Epstein Files Transparency Act identified more than 6 million total responsive records, of which approximately 3.5 million have been released to the public throughout the online EFTA portal. These publicly released materials, while clearly relevant based on contextual information, are so substantially redacted as to preclude meaningful law enforcement follow-up. Unredacted production is an investigative necessity, not an optional courtesy. Against this vast body of records, the United States Attorney's Office for the District of New Mexico has produced a mere 31 pages, oh my days, consisting almost entirely of documents already released through the EFTA portal, redacted materials that remain effectively unusable. So they're stonewalling, they're blocking, and they're doing it on purpose. And what they're saying here is, in a fancy legalese way, is you guys are hiding this shit on purpose. There's a reason why you guys are refusing to play ball with us. That's what New Mexico is saying right now to the Department of Justice. Like, oh, so y'all are y'all are doing the cover-up. You're doing the thing right now. Oh my word, bro. Oh my word. So listen, why? Why are we here? I have zero doubt that the word came directly from Donald Trump to his Department of Justice. Don't you dare fucking cooperate with that Zorro Ranch investigation. Don't you dare do that. Don't you dare give them access to the full Epstein files. Don't you dare do that. And why would Trump do that? Because he's panicking. And the reason he's panicking is because he's all over those Epstein files. He's all over some of the ones that were released. Could you imagine what they're hiding? What we already know is terrifying and devastating and disgusting and doesn't get talked about nearly enough. Like, for example, that Trump was Epstein's best friend for a decade. Like, for example, that Trump was on his pedophile plane 8 times that we know of and he went to the island. Like, for example, that the first time Trump and Melania had sex was allegedly on the Lolita Express. Like, for example, how Epstein knew the inner workings of Trump's White House in his first term and Trump offered him a job. Okay, he offered him a job in his first term to shut him up. To say, don't tell everybody what you have on me because I know you got a lot of dirt on me. I'll offer you a job if you play cool. If you play it cool, if you don't tell people what's going on here. Okay? Trump, again, think about what we know. We know that Trump and Epstein shared a girlfriend. Okay? We know that Trump was outed as having a nipple torture fetish. We know about the Katie Johnson story, allegedly 13 years old, and accused Trump of rape. Accused Trump of heinous things, accused Trump of assault of a little girl too, okay? We know that Trump allegedly assaulted somebody in Ivanka's bedroom in 1993 with her husband in the next room. And Epstein emailed Michael Wolff about that, okay? We know that Trump wrote that creepy love letter to Epstein and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I can go on here. There's reason to believe that Epstein learned all of his human trafficking tricks from Trump's teenage modeling agency. Remember that video of Trump on Howard Stern's show in the 1990s? And he's talking about how, well, since I own Miss Teen USA, I get to go into the locker room whenever I want, into the dressing room. And you got these teenage girls who are naked. And he's like, I get away with it. I get to go in there and say, is everybody okay? Does anybody need anything? And he looks at the naked teenage girls. He's basically admitting to being a fredophile on fucking camera to Howard Stern's face. And he fucking got away with it. And nobody even brings that shit up anymore. Very rarely gets brought up, okay? Do people know that Trump had a private event at Mar-a-Lago with teen models and it was only him and Jeffrey Epstein there and nobody else? Do people know that? I mean, again, the list of stuff, the stuff that we know, there's a reason why Trump is panicking. There's a reason why he's trying to shut down this investigation. There's a reason why he ordered his DOJ to not go along with New Mexico's Attorney General, is because when the truth comes out about what really went on with Epstein, it is terrifying. Did you know that Epstein bought massive vats of sulfuric acid at the same day that they announced an investigation into him? What were you doing with the massive vats of sulfuric acid there, Jeffrey? What were you doing with a fucking trap door underneath your mansion on the island that goes directly to the water? Were those two things linked? Were you murdering people and dissolving the bodies and dumping them in the ocean? Is that what's going on? Jesus Christ. And we don't even know the half of it. You know, there's stuff in the Epstein files about a CEO who has a biting girls fetish, but not like biting as in like playful light, biting as in like till they bleed. Okay? There's all stuff that's out there. It literally is like secret society disturbing type stuff, and there's a reason why Trump is hiding all of it. Trump said to Marjorie Taylor Greene, "What are you doing? These are my friends. Stop going after them." This is what he said to Marjorie Taylor Greene when Marjorie Taylor Greene signed on to releasing the Epstein files. This is what he said. And let's not forget all the blackmail on Trump, that in 2011, Trump spent hours at Epstein's house with one of the victims, and Epstein had emailed somebody about it at the time, and that came out in the Epstein files. So we know there's pictures, we know there's videos, okay? And then when you look at the FBI intake forms, now those are not as proven as a lot of the other stuff in the Epstein files, but just the speculation around that is fucking wild. The limo driver in Dallas that says Trump talked to Epstein on the phone about abusing girls. I mean, what the fuck? All right, so there you have it, man. Just incredibly disturbing stuff here. But New Mexico is being stonewalled by Trump because they're trying to get to the truth about Epstein. This should be a bigger story than it is. Share it far and wide.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
So Trump is continuing his streak of fucking up absolutely everything in this country and not slowing down in the process. Let me show you this. Trump announces that he is terminating 3 million acres of national monuments, opening them up to drilling, mining, and industrial development. Okay. Casually announces that like it's something to be fucking proud of. Like it's something to be proud of. He said this. Here we go.
We're terminating certain monuments. They call it monuments, not the ones we have outside, but these are large, thousands of acres. It's a total of almost 3 million acres, and we're going to be discussing it. But in fact, I think we'll start discussing it right now before I sign. After that, we're going to be signing 2 documents that are close to 1.5 million acres each.
Basically what this is like public lands, like national parks type stuff. And he's eliminating it. He's privatizing that land, turning it over to industry, letting industry loot, exploit, pillage, plunder, steal what's there, and doing it for development. So this is a guy, I mean, this, in all seriousness, one of the main things this should piss off are like those outdoorsy right-wing types who love hunting and love fishing and love nature and love camping and stuff like that. Like the Cameron Hanes guy who's been on Rogan a few times and has totally turned on Trump. And he said this is the main reason, is because they used Cameron Hanes when they thought he was pro-MAGA, and then they stabbed him in the back in the most brazen way because this is the main issue this guy cares about. And he's getting fucking railroaded by Trump, okay? So Roxanne Gibson says, opening millions of acres of national monuments for drilling and mining will fuck up waterways and natural areas. Pollution, habitat loss, and long-term damage are real risks. Nevin says, this is purposefully cruel to Native Americans who are getting some of their land stolen here, cruel to environmentalists, but also cruel to outdoor sports and recreation Americans like Cam Hanes. He hates Americans, he hates us, and wants to destroy everything we love. Look at this one. This one is like 2 on point. Trump's looking at the reflecting pool, which is green with algae, and he says, all I see is scum. And then somebody says, well, it is a reflecting pool, sir. That is exactly correct. So I went deeper on this. Look at this. Trump just destroyed one of Obama's signature national park accomplishments. Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante have been downsized again. So this is what it looks like. Just beautiful, beautiful land here. Red Rock Formations in the Valley of the Gods, April 22nd, 2026, in Bears Ear National Monument, Utah. So these parks in particular that he's destroying are in Utah. President Trump on Monday signed a pair of executive orders once again shrinking the boundaries of Bears Ears National Monument, Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. Bears Ears has been cut from 1.35 million acres to just 121,000 acres, while Grand Staircase Escalante has been cut from 1.89 million acres to about 181,000 acres. Twin reductions amounting to around 90% of their previous footprints. Both monuments have also been divided into 2 non-contiguous units. The pair of monuments has long been a political flashpoint, growing and shrinking based on who holds the White House. So in Trump's first term, he got rid of the protected status. Then Biden brought it back. Now Trump's getting rid of it again. But it looks like they're going to try to rush to develop it in the sense that they end up doing drilling and mining and industrial development and taking the minerals and like doing all that stuff. Why? Because all he cares about is corruption. All he cares about is bribery. All he cares about is business. There's no doubt that the people who are about to fucking destroy this beautiful natural wonder of a land are people who've paid Trump through Mar-a-Lago. People who've given him a shitload of money. And now Trump is returning the favor in the same way that he does the pay-to-place pardon scheme, where you pay him, he'll pardon whoever the fuck you want him to pardon, if you pay him the right amount. And now he's destroying whatever's left of the natural environment, the beauty. I mean, we're already in like a new extinction event right? Like, it's already happening. This new extinction event with climate change. He's doubling down on fossil fuels when we desperately need renewables. And now it's like, hey, let's fucking strip everything down to the studs in the meantime while we wait for the Earth and the Earth's ecosystem to totally collapse. So, I don't know, man. This is just crazy that this guy, he just gets away with everything. He just fucking gets away with everything. I've never seen him make a decision that has been positive in this entire second term. It is astonishing. You look at the destruction of the regulatory state. You look at the destruction of the administrative state. And you realize that this stuff is like, it's going to be like impossible to fucking fix all this. You know, like you would need 8 years of a phenomenal Democratic president just to get us back to motherfucking baseline. And even then, it's like, will we actually get back to baseline? When you look at the damage just Elon Musk and Doge did with Trump's help. I mean, Screwworm is back now, destroying our cattle industry, all because they cut the program because they didn't know shit about it, okay? They cut pediatric cancer research. They cut the National Weather Service and gave us worse forecasting, which has led to deaths, by the way. They cut Meals on Wheels, the CFPB. They cut nuclear safety officials and FEMA. They destroyed FEMA. They destroyed the Department of Education. They fired 83,000 veterans. They cut half the fucking Social Security offices and fired 250,000 public workers. They got rid of the food safety inspections. People are getting diarrhea lettuce now because they couldn't be bothered to do basic food safety stuff, okay? They destroyed the air traffic controllers and then a whole bunch of planes crashed. Who are we kidding? Scientific research? Please, that's now done. They're not interested in that. Medical research? Get the fuck out of here. Cancer cures? We don't care. We're done with all that. We're not doing any of that. Okay? And while we're at it, let's kick out all the foreign students. Let's have fucking brain drain. Let's have millions of people die because of U.S. aid cuts. Let's open up all of our public lands to be fucking looted and raped and pillaged by a bunch of asshole Epstein-class billionaires. I mean, what a sick joke. This guy doesn't give a fuck about any of us. He doesn't care about any of us. And in the mind of a malignant narcissist, when he is gone, he doesn't care if we're all gone with him, which is why there's a real concern he might use nuclear weapons in Iran. I mean, this is catastrophic, bro. It truly is catastrophic. Amazing to see. It really is. But I'm waiting for the backlash. The backlash better be fucking furious. The backlash better be overwhelming because we can't put up with this shit anymore.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
So the other day, we talked about Nick Shirley, the derpy MAGA virgin. And this guy came out of obscurity. He was promoted by J.D. Vance. He was promoted by right-wing think tanks. It was an astroturfed effort. They made a big deal out of, oh, look, there's fraud being done by Somalis in Minnesota. And it was all bullshit. It was all, half-truths and exaggerations and misleading stuff. Well, anyway, we talked about him the other day because left-wing host Brian Shapiro went to an event that Shirley was doing, and he just completely destroyed him casually without even trying, without even breaking a sweat. He basically brought up to him, like, hey, man, you care about fraud. Why haven't you said anything about the fact that your president, who you love, has pardoned dozens of people who've committed billions of dollars in fraud? And he's done it because of a pay-to-play corruption scheme. But you haven't even talked about that. And his reaction was basically, he had nothing to say because he was caught. So he, basically immediately sank instead of swimming. And so Nick Shirley also went on Alex Jones' show, Mr. Washed himself, Ozempic Jones himself. This right here, they have an idiot competition. And I guess you guys can tell me who wins, but here we go.
You got approached by a congressman. You said you're willing to tell the story at the UFC this weekend.
Yeah, it was interesting. When I went to the UFC fight at the White House, a congressman came up to me and he said something that I had never really thought about. And he said to me, he's like, thank you so much for your work. And I just want to let you know that because of all the fraud that you've exposed, that essentially the war on Iran has been free because of you. Because of all the money that I've helped recoup and expose, and the money that's going to be saved in the future is in $200, $300 billion. It's in the hundreds of billions of dollars. This will not just impact this year. It's going to keep making impacts hopefully for the future.
That's kind of a backhanded compliment, though. Son, you saved $300 billion, and we used it for bombs. Good job.
Yeah,
our entire war. Son, your savings helped the emperor build the Death Star.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but it did just put it into perspective.
No, it's great what you did. What they did with the money is their issue, but yeah.
Yeah, very interesting perspective.
Nothing has ever been less true than what Nick Shirley just said. First of all, let me just be clear. I think the whole story's made up. I know we have dumbass Republican congresspeople, but I think it's made up. I think it's totally made up. The amount of money this derpy little twerp saved is nothing. Okay, first of all, there were already investigations into fraud happening in Minnesota. By the way, the ringleader was a white woman. They don't like to explain that fact, but it's true. Okay, there were already investigations, and it was happening under Democrats. Okay, whatever the amount of fraud was is a pittance compared to the fraud that Donald Trump has personally pardoned. Not only did he pardon these people, he said, you don't have to pay your victims back. No restitution. You're good, bro. Commit the crime and run out the back door with all the money. Okay? But he's saying $300 billion. Well, first of all, the war against Iran is going to be way more than that. Let's be serious. I mean, it'd be a miracle if we got out for $300 billion. Now, we probably already spent $300 billion. They're asking for $350 billion just for the war. So even if those numbers were true, which they're not, you still don't even hit the number you need, right? But second of all, they want $1.5 trillion for the fucking Pentagon. There's not enough fraud in the motherfucking country for that. This is like when Elon was like, oh yeah, we're going after the waste, fraud, and abuse. And then he comes back and like every other day he like cuts the number in half that he found. Like, oh, we're getting trillions in. Did I say trillions? I meant 1 trillion. Did I say 1 trillion? I mean, we get 500 billion in fraud. Did I say 500 billion? I meant 50 billion. Did I say 50 billion? I meant 1 billion. Did I say 1 billion? I meant 500 million. Did I say 500? I meant 5 million. I meant 17 cents and a Pop-Tart. Turns out, DogeNet cost money. We're finding the fraud and we're gonna fix the country by finding the fraud. Net cost money to do what they did. It didn't save money. They cut the screwworm program, $10 million to dump flies over Panama to make sure that the screwworms don't come up here. They cut that program. Now it's going to cost $1 billion to clean up that mess. And this is everything across the board when it comes to Doge, right? They cut the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Well, that agency net made billions for the government because they actually stopped the corporate criminals, right? But they just lie. Oh yeah, we stopped the fraud. No, we didn't. We actually made the fraud worse. Whatever, bro. Who cares? Who's counting? Let's keep moving forward. The New York Times did, and other outlets did like exhaustive breakdowns of like how they were lying about all the money. This little fucking derpy virgin twerp ass bitch. It's the same thing. Oh, I saved his money. No, you didn't. He thinks he's like the Michael Moore of the right. Like, no, you're a low IQ dipshit who's in over your head, who has no idea whether you're coming or going. Remember when he yelled at Andrew Callahan because Andrew Callahan did an interview with him and like cleaned up all the uhs and the ums and like tightened it up? And he goes, you made me look worse. No, you look like that, period. He made you look better and you still look stupid, okay? So this guy's a joke. This guy's pathetic. This guy's sick. If he actually gave a shit about fraud, he would be going after Trump relentlessly and going after the white-collar criminals that Trump pardoned relentlessly. But he doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about that at all. He's pro-corruption as long as the corruption's on the right. He's pro-bribery as long as the bribery is on the right. He's pro-fraud as long as the fraud is on the fucking right. That's the fact of the matter. Unfucking believable. Jesus Christ. We got a free war because of you. Really, a free fucking war. Well, let's all... thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Next time you do, a fraud investigation, maybe we'll get a free nuclear winter. Can you give us one of those too? You sick fucking prick. Jesus Christ. So I looked it up. And even if you steel man the fuck out of Nick Shirley and assume he's not a fraud, which he is, right? Assume he's not a fucking con man dipshit, which he is. Best case scenario, give me your top of the line, hardcore, right-wing biased number as to how much money in fraud this guy was able to fucking find. And that number is like 100 million to 110 million. Okay? Already the Iran war, they want $350 billion for that shit. The way that these people lie, the way that they have no regard whatsoever for the truth, and the way that they suck themselves off and act like they're heroes when they're actually like quite directly the villains, it is some of the most humiliating shit I've ever seen. Like, again, I don't know how we can functionally run a country with anybody who would look at Nick Shirley and think he's serious, and think he's like telling the truth, and think he's being honest, and think he's like doing a service to the country, right? Like I said, we actually just covered this. I believe it's like 1 point something billion, 1.2, 1.3 billion is the amount of fraud that Donald Trump has effectively pardoned. It's like dozens of people that did 1 point something billion in fraud. He wiped that off the books. Now they're roaming the street doing fraud again. So even if you steel man the fuck out of what Shirley did, you're still nowhere near what Trump has committed in fraud and the cost of the fucking Iran war. I mean, I don't know, man. I better stop talking because if I keep talking, I'm going to get myself in trouble. I'm going to say something that's going to get me in trouble here on YouTube. But you guys get it, right? Like, these people are such con men, and it's a shame that they're the ones who get the spotlight. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're the ones who got all the attention. They're the ones who get treated like they're serious, when the whole time this has been nothing but a ruse. And he was propped up. Understand, he's AstroTurf, man. He's AstroTurfed. He is propped up by right-wing think tanks. It was coordinated what happened with JD Vance pushing his video out there. And this kid's not ready for prime time. This kid's not ready for prime time at all. And so, yeah, I mean, you just got to counter this bullshit fake journalism with real journalism and need truth tellers to get out there. But you're certainly not going to get any fucking truth tellers on the right. That's for damn sure. All right, y'all. That's the show. I love y'all very much. You guys know the drill. Everybody do me a big favor and subscribe to the channel. Click that bell icon. You could also support the show on Patreon. Link below. Remember, there's real independent media. We appreciate all your support. You could also sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. Speaking of, we have Joyanne Reed coming on this week. Don't miss that. That's fucking awesome and a lot of fun. She's great. And then also go sub to Corin's World. Like I said, it's Corin's birthday week, so hook him up with a sub. It would mean the world. And that's all I got for you, man. I love y'all, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
What's up, y'all? Hope everybody out there is having a great day. Forgive me if it looks a little bit misty or foggy here. I'm currently coming at you from the apocalypse. For those of you who don't know, there are these massive wildfires in the northwest of Canada right now. And all of that wildfire smoke is coming directly at my ass here in Virginia, okay? We have air quality that's among the worst in the world right now. It said unhealthy at one point, and then I looked a little later on in the day, it said very unhealthy. So it smells like a mix of a campfire and like a very chlorinated pool right now. And I'm probably doing the equivalent of smoking like 3 packs of cigarettes just by sitting outside and delivering the news for you guys. But the show's got to go on, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So before I even get into this, let me just say real quick, everybody sign up on Substack for Crystal Kyle and Friends. We have Joyanne Reed coming on tonight. You do not want to miss that. There'll be, I believe, 1 teaser clip posted on the YouTube channel, but you're definitely going to want to listen to the whole thing. So sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack, or all you have to do is you can also sign up for free, and then what'll happen is when the audio podcast drops, you'll get that sent right to your email inbox, and so you can listen to the full thing without even having to pay anything. But if you want to pay $5 a month, you can get the video, and you can get it a day early. That will drop tonight for the Substack members, the subscribers. So definitely check that out. But like I said, I got a lot of stuff to get to. So let me start with this, y'all. This is kind of crazy, but there's now rumors floating around online that there were U.S. casualties the other day. There were U.S. casualties in the Middle East the other day. So I told you the U.S. and Iran have been going back and forth. This war has spiraled out of control. It's escalated. I'm going to get to some updates on that in a second because now Trump has lost his goddamn mind and he's purposefully targeting civilian infrastructure over and over and over. It's actually disgusting to see what's happening. But there were reports the other day, some rumors, that the U.S. took military casualties in an Iranian attack on a command center in Syria. And there were talks of potential medical evacuations. Now, the U.S. came out and denied any military casualties. However, 4 days ago, I believe it was, there was another U.S. service member who was killed. And I kid you not, guys, I heard absolutely nothing about this until I started researching before this show right now. I typed it in and I realized, oh shit, hold on. Now there's 14 casualties. I thought there were 13. And it was from 4 days ago, another one was added, and we heard nothing about it. They are trying to brush that bitch under the rug like nobody's business, bro. They don't want you talking about it. They don't want you knowing about it. They don't want you thinking about it. They don't want more information to get out there, so the public turns even more against the war. It's already at a 30% approval rating, this stupid illegal war, okay? But this will make people turn on them even faster. So they're really burying it. But like I said, the speculation, the rumors are there's even more U.S. service members who were killed in an Iranian attack on a command center in Syria. So we'll see over time whether or not that's true. But like I said, this war has spiraled out of control. So as of right now, Pentagon officials are estimating that the Iran war has already cost $100 billion, y'all. $100 billion. That already is 4 times the original estimate when they said it was going to be $25 billion. So we're already 4 times higher than what they said. Does this remind you of anything? To all my millennials out there and Gen Xers out there and boomers out there, does this remind you of anything? For all the youngins listening here, this is literally exactly what happened with the illegal war in Iraq, waged by Bush and Cheney. They said the same thing. Oh, it'll be quick. We'll be in and out. The oil will pay for the war. They'll greet us as liberators, and it'll be nothing. It won't be that much. We literally ended up spending $7 trillion in the Middle East when all is said and done for that. And what do we have to show for it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, we made the world a much worse place as a result of it. Okay? So it's already happening. It's already happening. The forever war is already here. Okay? So get this. The $100 billion. What could that have paid for? Ready? A year of health care for over 10 million Americans, 2.5 years of free school lunch for every public school student in the country, a $31,000 raise for every single public school teacher in the country, affordable housing for over 12 million Americans, and a full year of childcare for over 7 million kids. Literally any one of those things, it would have been better to give the money to that. Any one of those things. But no, we're wasting it blowing up a bunch of hospitals and schools in the Middle East for no reason. Okay, so this is crazy, bro, but this came out the other day. Iran has apparently calculated that $9 billion in profits was made from market manipulation by people close to Trump, mainly Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. And Iran, I don't know, this is sort of like they're like trolling here, but also probably being semi-serious when they say they are formally requesting $4.5 billion of that sum be allocated to Iran through intermediaries. So they're saying, you motherfuckers got to give us that money as reparations for bombing the shit out of us, okay? And we want half of your profits that you made from this illegal market manipulation. And then they say that Iran sent a private message to J.D. Vance during the Switzerland talks, warning him that Kushner and Witkoff were abusing the negotiations. They were personally profiting off of it. Quote, they're more interested in exploiting insider knowledge to profit in financial markets than reaching a deal. And Iran also expressed concern about repeated leaks from Kushner to Netanyahu, since Witkoff and Kushner talk almost every day to Netanyahu and the head of Mossad. So this is what Iran says. Now, J.D. Vance immediately comes out and he goes, oh, this is not true. None of this is accurate. This is absurd. They haven't even been making money off the White House. Well, you undermine your whole case when you say that, J.D., because we know it's a matter of fact they have been making money off the White House. I mean, that's not even up in the air for debate or discussion. That's a very black and white issue. They've been profiting. No doubt about it. And so, I mean, immediately when J.D. Vance came out and denied it, I went, okay, no, it's true. Now we know it's true. Now we know it's true because thou dost protest too much. So, according to Iran, just on the Iran war market manipulation, Trump and his cronies have made $9 billion in profits. Okay? This is something they used to give you the guillotine for. I'll just say it. I'm not saying what should happen. I'm just saying that in the past, if some shit like this happened, they would give your ass the guillotine. You would be lucky to get life in prison in that scenario. You made $9 billion off of death and destruction. $9 billion. These people they're not amoral in the sense that they have no morality. They are immoral. They are evil bastards is what they are. So that's fucking crazy, bro. That's crazy. Made $9 billion off insider trading off a fucking war that they started. Okay. Well, we're also getting word that the Maritime Traffic Control Tower at the Chabahar port in southeastern Iran has collapsed after a series of repeated U.S. strikes. The tower was targeted multiple times over the last few weeks, and now the tower has collapsed. So listen, I don't know what the deal is with this. Like, there's a chance that Iran has already prepared for this, and they weren't really using that tower. Like, the U.S. likes to hit traditional military targets in Iran, traditional military targets, along with civilian infrastructure. But Iran has been preparing for this war for decades, so most of their shit is underground. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they are prepared for this. And so I don't know if they were using that tower, if they weren't using that tower, but either way, this is the sort of shit that the U.S. does. Now you're going after the Maritime Traffic Control Tower. And by the way, wait till I get to a bunch of the other targets. So, U.S. missiles damaged 6 bridges in Iran's Hormuzgan province, okay? I'm going to butcher these names, but bear with me here. The Grive Bridge. You have the Ladidan Village, the bridge after the Ladidan Village. You have 2 bridges on the Khorasan to Lar route. You have partially completed Bandar Kamir, Keshvar, and Bandar Abbas Bridge, and a Maro Village Bridge. And we have pictures here that have been floating around social media. Now, some of these bridges seem like they've been destroyed. Others look like it's partial damage. The question is, was the partial damage ones, was that on purpose? Was that like sort of like a sign? Or is it just like, no, fuck it, we're going all out here and we're going full Hitler? But either way, the U.S. is now routinely bombing Iranian civilian infrastructure on a regular basis. The day that J.D. Vance was on Joe Rogan's podcast acting like, we're really working hard for peace, that same day he said, we're not just going to bomb and bomb and bomb and bomb. The U.S. bombed a children's hospital that day. Okay, this man is disgusting. This man was out there pretending like the MOU was still in effect when the MOU was done, and the U.S. had just been bombing for the last 7 days. That, like, as J.D. Vance was talking, they were in the midst of a 7-hour bombing campaign on Iran. I mean, it's fucking disgusting stuff, man. So, Iran has retaliated, and they launched extensive attacks on Qatar with at least 3 or 4 impacts in Doha. And initial reports of the impacts are that the U.S., a U.S. base was hit, the Al Udeid Air Base, and simultaneous Iranian retaliation is going on across the Gulf countries. There were explosions heard in Bahrain and Jordan and Kuwait and Iraq. So as much as the U.S. is going at Iran, Iran is giving it right the fuck back, okay? The Trump administration also apparently notified Israel that it's sending dozens more refueling planes to the Middle East ahead of a potential massive offensive in Iran. So Axios is reporting that a massive offensive could be coming. Now, this is consistent with what I've been warning you of, right? I've been warning you that it looks like they've made a lot of troop movements that seem to indicate they're nowhere near done. Whether they're going to take Karg Island or one of the other oil-important islands, or if they're going to try to do some ground invasion using Iraq as the launch point, something's happening because there's been so many troop movements in the region that indicate that this is not the end of it. And now we know that Israel was notified that we're sending dozens more refueling planes, okay? The details include that President Trump is reportedly considering a massive offensive in Iran. Among the options being considered are bombing Iranian infrastructure more, facilities like power plants and nuclear sites, okay? President Trump could order the escalation in the coming days, says Axios, and Brent oil prices surged toward $88 a barrel just hearing that news. But again, guys, I keep coming back to this. I keep telling you, they got no more fucking tricks up their sleeve, bro. We've blown through the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. I genuinely don't know how much longer we have until that shit is at a bare minimum, right? And we can't get anything out of there. And then with the Strait of Hormuz shut and the other strait shut in the Middle East, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. And Iran is saying, like, bro, you keep bombing us, we're going to bomb the alternate ways that you guys get oil. Like that, what is it, the Saudi East-West pipeline? That's like a way that they've circumvented the Strait of Hormuz, right? But now Iran's like, we're going to bomb that bitch if you keep bombing us. So, I mean, they are really flirting with and begging for financial Armageddon for the entire globe, bro. That's what's going on here, okay? Now, Trump last night, amidst all this fucking chaos, the endless warmongering, the endless war crimes, amidst all this shit going on, Trump comes out last night and he gives a presidential address. Now, first of all, let me just say, I love ABC News and NBC News and even CNN. They all reacted to it by saying, yeah, we're not going to cover that bitch. Which, thank you. This is what we've been begging you to do, is like, there's got to be an element of like, when he goes too far, when he overreaches, you got to just be like, we're not interested in what you're saying anymore. You understand what I mean? Like, at some point, you just got to be like, sorry, we're going to go do some other shit. We're going to because, like, covering every little thing he's done has sort of helped him get to this point, right? Like, there's this backlash effect. But anyway, I digress. They didn't cover it live, and the reason why is they came out and said, look, he's giving a speech on, you know, the 2020 election and election integrity, and he has a track record of lying relentlessly about that, and that has led to literal fucking lawsuits where, like, Dominion and Smartmatic and these voting machine companies have won hundreds of millions of dollars, and they go, we're not interested in opening ourselves up to lawsuits, and we're also not interested in spreading the falsehoods, and so none of them covered it live. CNN, ABC, and NBC didn't cover it live, okay? And by the way, Trump crashed out of that, was like, I'm going to take their license. I'm going to take all their licenses, which is not a thing. Like, you can't do that. He would try, but you can't fucking do that. It's just like, he's so anti-free speech, he thinks nothing of being like, I'm just going to shut you down, right? But, so he goes out there and gives a speech, and Trump accuses the Chinese government, okay, of interfering in our political system. And he says, I'm not kidding about this, he says that the Chinese government had a plot of making it appear like your president is not as hot as he is. They're trying to make us appear, they're trying to make me appear like I'm not hot, and I'm hot, frankly. This country's hot. I mean, this, like, he actually, I'm paraphrasing there, but that's, like, actually what the line was. It was, like, trying to interfere to try to make us look less hot. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Okay, I genuinely don't even know what that means. Okay, get this, ready? So, in the speech, he's like, we found all these documents, and these documents prove I'm right about everything. Okay? And he says, we found burn bags that the Obama people were burning stuff. Does he mention what the burn bags were, or what was in the burn bags, or what they thought they... Nope, not at all. Why? 'Cause it's totally made up, of course. Well, one of the documents that the Trump regime released to try to, like, back up his, oh, he's right about everything. See, let's release some of those documents. One of the documents that Trump disclosed has a section noting that China targeted the Biden campaign and does, quote, not currently intend to covertly interfere to try and sway the outcome of the election. Incredible. Their own documents undermine the claim that he's trying to make, and because they didn't bother to read through all of it. They didn't bother. Like, we found these top secret intelligence documents, we're releasing it all, and it totally busts up everything he's saying, okay? Trump's big document dump also, it was meant to prove that China stole the 2020 election. Instead, it includes a classified intelligence graphic that makes clear that Russia was the country trying to meddle in American voting systems. That they actually went the furthest. I can't, bro. In the process of trying to, like, be vindicated and pat himself on the back and suck himself off and act like he was right about everything, he proves the exact opposite. Like, you can't make this up. What a sick joke. But look, it is serious, though, because what I fear is, like, what is he going to do for the midterms, and what are they going to do for 2028? I mean, they are preparing to do the unthinkable and to do the unspeakable, okay? Like, that's just the truth. And they already have, like, as we've gone over on this show, 7 or 8 different ways that they're going to try to steal the election. And this is like he's trying to lay the groundwork and lay out the framework as to, like, hey, when this happens, understand, I'm just protecting the election. I'm not actually rigging it. It's very disturbing. Now, on that point, Mark Wayne Mullen, 2 first name have-an-ass freak, he comes out and says that election officials in states that don't cooperate with the Trump regime may face jail time. So he had this press conference over election integrity, and he goes, if you don't cooperate with us, you may face jail time. It's interesting he's saying this now, immediately after the Trump regime lost 13 court cases on this exact issue, whether or not states can be forced to turn over their voter roll data to the Trump regime. 13 courts in a row, including one in West fucking Virginia, goes, fuck off. No, the states control the election. Absolutely not. Right? But here he is going, we may arrest you if you don't cooperate with us. In other words, give us all the voter roll data. Let us do the ballot purging and ballot spoiling. Again, they're trying, man. They're doing a full court press trying to get this bitch done. Right? I hope everybody stands strong, and I hope that the Democrats are prepared for every eventuality that might come now. Because, like I said, they're going to play as dirty can be, okay? Now, also, MS Now is reporting that 2 Atlanta-based FBI intelligence analysts were fired last week because they refused to participate in the Trump administration's investigation of Georgia's 2020 election. So as you all know, they seized the ballots from Fulton County, Georgia. They seized some ballots from Arizona. This is all for the same nefarious plot where he's trying to pat himself on the back and say, I won the election. Total bullshit, as you know, right? But there are some people in the FBI who are trying to stop them and trying to block this and trying to say, this is a bullshit investigation. We're not fucking abiding by this. And they fired them. Okay, this is what happens. This is what happens in authoritarian regimes. You put only loyalists in positions of power, and this way there's nobody to tell you no when you go for broke. Do you understand that? All right, also, terrifying press conference. I'm probably going to do more about this on Monday and show you guys some video, but there was a White House press release, and in the press release, and in this like broader event that had Stephen Miller and many others in it, they lay out how, oh no, we're serious. We are criminalizing dissent. If you're a liberal, if you're a leftist, if you're part of a liberal or left-wing group, look out, because we are going to throw the book at you. The new Red Scare era is here. The new McCarthyism era is here. And they released a press release here that says the Trump administration unleashes global campaign to crush radical left terrorism. That's, okay, fucking insane is point number one. Point number two is think about who they consider a terrorist. We just had anti-ICE protesters in Texas who did nothing but hand out pamphlets. They're now in prison for years because of these fucking psychopaths. Do you understand that? You don't have to do any violence whatsoever, not even a little bit, and they will throw the fucking book at you. If you're a liberal or a leftist or part of a liberal or left-wing group, they're going to try to accuse you of being a terrorist or terrorist adjacent. Okay? In this press release, it says, under the leadership of President Donald J. Trump, far-left extremism will be treated with the same seriousness and ferocity the world has long reserved for jihadist terrorism. So like I said, it is a whole of government mindset approach where now you are public enemy number one. If you're a dissident, you disagree with Trump, you disagree with the government, you are on their fucking radar and they're creating a fucking blackmail file on you and they're going to try to take away your rights. That's what this is. That's what's going on here. Just incredibly disturbing, bro. And like I said, I'll cover this more on Monday and give you guys some videos, show you what Stephen Miller was saying. But understand, this is NSPM 7. This is NSPM 7. And it's kind of crazy how little coverage this has gotten. This is the most anti-free speech thing I've ever seen in my life. It is the most un-American thing I've ever seen in my life. And they are going for it. They're going for it. Okay. Well, ironic we're talking about that. They're accusing leftists of being terrorists at the same time. ICE are literal terrorists and they're doing terrorism all across this country. Well, guess what? Remember the guy who did the most recent ICE murder? I know there's one like every other day. So you're probably going, Kyle, which one is that? The most recent ICE murder that just happened? I believe it was in Maine. Well, the guy who did it, when I tell you, he is one of the single most psychotic motherfuckers I've ever read about in my life. I mean it. This guy has the profile of a serial killer, yo. A fucking serial killer. So listen to this post about him, okay? The abuse the ex-wife of the main ICE agent details in an NPR interview is horrifying, including a 2022 police report of throwing his 13-year-old daughter through a coffee table. A voicemail from last year saying her throat should be cut, and pulling a gun on her in the shower. She questions if ICE runs even a basic background check on recruits. So there's this article that came out. Everybody needs to read this article. It's fucking insanity. But you read this article, and one fact is crazier than the next. This guy tried to commit suicide twice. This guy, from when he was a kid, everybody said, oh shit, something's off with that guy. Like, his brain is not functioning. He has CTE, mixed with PTSD, mixed with paranoid schizophrenia. Something's going on. Very violent profile, very violent history, very abusive history. He called his wife to ask his wife to lie for him and vouch on his behalf. And she said, motherfucker, I'm not doing that at all. When he first got a job at ICE, he told his ex-wife about it. His ex-wife thought he was kidding because she was like, there's no shot that they would hire somebody like you with your history, with your track record, with your criminal record, with your psychiatric illnesses. So this man, when I tell you this was like the last man in America who ever should have had a weapon, never mind a fucking fake badge and a weapon, I mean that shit. But guess what he did? And you know what the most terrifying part of this all is? The most terrifying part of this all is that maybe that's why they picked him, right? Maybe it's not, oh, let's hire him despite this. Maybe it's let's hire him because of this. Because there's nothing Trump wants more than criminals who will do crimes on his behalf for his purposes. This is why I say ICE is not a government agency. It's a paramilitary, and it's a Gestapo agency, okay? It is a criminal gang is what it is. And they don't care about the Constitution. They flout the Constitution on a daily basis. They don't care about the rules. They don't care about the regulations. They don't care about checks and balances. Their job is to terrorize Americans, and more specifically, terrorize whoever the fuck Stephen Miller and Donald Trump want them to terrorize. And now you know, when you read, look at the people they're hiring. I told you they're hiring criminals. They're hiring the worst of the worst. They're hiring the dregs of society. They're hiring fucking Proud Boys and 3%ers and people in the KKK and people with domestic violence histories. Every fucking thing you can think of. Violent, paranoid, schizophrenic abusers. And by the way, I believe it was the same guy. He was recorded pulling a gun on somebody innocent and threatening to murder them not that long ago. And now you left him on the streets. Now he fucking did it. This is terrifying, bro. And ICE needs to be abolished, and these motherfuckers need to be tried and put under the prison. How about that? Okay, also, this just happened today, actually. Aurora police say an ICE detention center employee shot a protester last night. She's expected to survive, but 42-year-old Brandon Booth, who works for the ICE contractor GEO Group, that's a private prison group that has a horrible track record in their own right, where they feed people moldy food with fucking bugs in them and shit, okay? He's being held on suspicion of attempted second-degree murder and other charges. So another psychopathic killer or attempted killer who's an ICE thug. Incredible stuff. Senior ICE officials have reached out to the media, and they've said point blank that Trump's arrest quotas are the reason for the deadly wave of shootings and crimes that have been happening that ICE is committing. They say, look, they make us arrest, I think it's like 2,000 people a day. And in order to do that, like, we got to go after people who aren't actual criminals. And so this is what it looks like. Never mind the fact all these assholes they're hiring, right? But like, it becomes a thing where this is why they go after randos on the street, right? They pull people over and shoot them in the fucking face. But senior ICE officials are saying, like the people who were there back in the day, they're going, yeah, it's all the fucking quota. It's all the fact that they're being forced to arrest. I mean, Stephen Miller himself said, I care about quantity, not quality. He said they literally disband the parts of the agency that were going after cartels and child traffickers. I'm not kidding about this. And they said, get your ass to the fucking Lowe's parking lot. Get your ass to the Home Depot parking lot. Go after those people. This is who we're dealing with. And guys, I swear, if people knew the half of it, nobody could ever vote Republican again, ever. If people knew the half of it, they could never vote Republican. They go, I mean, this is just psychotic. By the way, how about this? A high-ranking ICE official produced pornographic content of a 5-year-old child and uploaded it to his laptop. Thankfully, he was just sentenced to 15 years in prison. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane stuff. All right. Now I got to talk about this. So as I said, I'm currently recording from hell here, as you can see if you look around. It looks very smoky because it is smoky. This is Canadian wildfire smoke that has now blown directly into my neighborhood, okay? Well, Trump came out. You literally can't make this up. Trump comes out and says this, ready? We are holding Canada responsible for the fact that they are not properly maintaining their forests and brush therein, and the United States is being unnecessarily invaded by filthy, polluted, and unhealthy air, the quality of which is dangerous and totally unacceptable. I will call the Prime Minister during the day to find out what they are going to do about it. The cost is incalculable. Canada has refused to engage in basic forest management and debris removal. Knowing that such refusal will lead to exactly this result, this is willful negligence and becoming a yearly occurrence, costing the United States billions of dollars, which cost of this pollution must of necessity be added. He's not even making sense. I think he's trying to say must out of necessity be added to the tariffs Canada is currently paying. So he's basically trying to charge them because they had wildfires, and the wildfire smoke is blown into our country. Yeah, here's the thing, you fucking dipshit. First of all, I don't know what their process is for forest management, but whatever it is, it's either equal to or much better than ours, okay? That's point number one. We have forest fires, wildfires all the time here too, especially in like, you know, Northern California. It depends on the season, depends on how dry shit is. But the ultimate irony is, hey, motherfucker, look in the mirror. This is your fucking fault. Why? Because this is what happens with climate change. There's a tremendous amount of research on this that shows because of climate change, you have bigger fires, more powerful fires, and they happen more often because the climate is changing. So we get severe weather all across the map, okay? And he also, this is at the same time, you want to talk about negligence, at the same time you're causing an oil shortage and an oil crisis, you're refusing to do green and renewable energy. Like, the solution is green and renewable energy. By the way, Trump has single-handedly destroyed the electric vehicle market in the U.S. Like, he's cooked U.S. car makers for the foreseeable future because gas cars are a thing of the past, and he wants them to double down and triple down and quadruple down on that. So now BYD in China is kicking fucking our car companies' asses when it comes to electric vehicles. So Trump kills all of Biden's renewable projects and green projects, kills wind, kills solar, kills geothermal, doubles down on the dirtiest kind of energy you can imagine, right? Lets the oil companies get away with fucking whatever the fuck they want to get away. Pollute as much as you want, use as much as you want. And then he turns around and goes, can you believe these fires? I blame Canada because they didn't do forest management. No, bitch, it's you and it's the oil companies and it's every Republican politician that says climate change is a hoax. You're to fucking... By the way, this is like, welcome to the new reality. Welcome to the new random fucking Thursday or Friday. Because for the rest of our lives, it might fucking look like this on a regular basis. We might be breathing in very unhealthy air and get particulate matter in our lungs and die fucking 10 years earlier because of this or because of the fucking glyphosate that we're now using that Trump pumped more of that into the system because he wants to fucking poison us to serve his corporate masters. I mean, what a fucking sick joke this is. So he's to blame. And he's blaming Canada and the lack of forest management. Like, what a sick joke, bro. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. This is all climate change, and this is all because you idiots want the dirtiest energy possible and none of the clean energy. I just can't fucking stand these people, man. I really can't. All right. Well, I'm sure you saw this, but the blatant Trump family corruption is continuing, and Trump Media is launching a paid Truth API. So on August 1st, they're going to allow stock traders and hedge funds and institutional investors to pay a fee for faster real-time access to President Trump's Truth Social posts. So subscribers can monitor his statements more quickly than standard users and use the earlier signals to buy or sell stocks and other assets ahead of a slower public reaction. And they say revenue from the service goes to Trump Media, in which Trump holds a majority stake through his trust. So this is literally like they've now gotten rid of any pretense they had, and they're just like, yeah, let's just do bribery. Let's just do insider trading out in the open here. Give me a shitload of money. I'll let you know how I'm market manipulating early on. You can get in on the fun, and then the people who don't pay me are suckers, and they're not going to make the money like you're going to make the fucking money. It's basically like everybody's a con man, everybody's a scam artist, everybody's a criminal. Give the head criminal a bunch of money, and he'll let you in on the spoils. That's what this is. I mean, the criminality is so off the charts. It would have sounded like absurd if you said this is what's going to happen, like this is what he's going to do. People would have looked at you and said, you have Trump derangement syndrome. If you said, oh yeah, they're going to do something like this. But they're doing it. They're coming up with creative schemes nobody's ever even considered to be corrupt. Like I said, I never want to hear another word about Nancy Pelosi or Hunter Biden or Joe Biden or any Democrat for that matter. You can find your 10 most corrupt Democrats and put all of their corruption together and multiply it by 1,000, and it doesn't equal one fucking Trump crime family member. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. And then they do this and they have the nerve to accuse others of being corrupt. Like, you guys are sick, bro. These people are actually sick. They're deranged. They're sick. And this is what they actually care about. They care about self-dealing. They care about corruption. They care about growing their bank accounts, growing their power, growing their wealth. They simply do not give a fuck about you. Not in the slightest, bro. Not even a little bit. Susan Collins also, by the way, exchanged a bunch of government contracts for millions of dollars in campaign contributions. She now apparently is ranked in the top 20 most corrupt politicians. Trump is apparently now prioritizing the production of a golden coin with his face on it. As that's going on, by the way, gas prices are up 30% in the last 4 months. That's great. I mean, what do you even say about this, right? What do you even say about this? So, I've lost count, right? But he wants his face on Mount Rushmore. He's got a fucking airport with his name on it in Florida. He put his face on passports. He wrote his name on our currency. He slapped his name on the Kennedy Center to try to make it the Trump Kennedy Center, which a judge slapped down, by the way. He's trying to build that Epstein Memorial Ballroom. What else is there? There's like 7 other things I'm fucking forgetting. But this is what this guy cares about. Like, he's trying to force his face on shit and force his name on shit because he knows that once he's gone, nobody else will ever fucking do that. Because we all hate him. We all know he doesn't give a fuck about us. He has no actual legacy. And so he's trying to, like, force his way onto us. Quite literally, the logic of a rapist trying to force himself onto us and leave us no choice. And this is what he's doing. So now, trying to force his name on a coin. At the same time, he's waging multiple illegal wars and crashing the global economy. Incredible. It truly is incredible. Now, I got to talk a little bit about Israel here because this is wild. Dropsite News is saying that Israel has advanced plans for, quote, a large settlement enclave in East Jerusalem. Okay? The Israeli authorities approved plans to advance the construction of about 450 illegal settlement housing units inside the Palestinian neighborhood of Lisan, sorry if I mispronounced that, in occupied East Jerusalem. So they say that the project could bring about 2,000 new Israeli settlers into the neighborhood. So this is what they do. This is what's called mission creep, right? In Gaza, they just murdered everybody. They ethnically cleansed. They stole the territory. Now they're going to build a bunch of bullshit on it. That's what they did there. In the West Bank, what they do is it's a slow-moving coup. It's a whole bunch of pogroms, day after day after day. Steal a little bit of land here, a little bit of land there. Then you have the settlers go in there, the illegal Israeli occupying settlers who are religious psychopaths who say that God promised them that land. But then you have the IDF go in to back them up, right? We saw this with Rokana when he was detained. The IDF goes in and backs up the psycho settlers. And then eventually you create facts on the ground where you go, oh, look, the Israelis have all this extra territory here. And then they go, oh, well, we're not just going to give that up. And they say, okay, let's build 450 new settlements, right? Let's have 2,000 new settlers come in. This is what they're doing. And so I love how I'm bringing this up to you. Nobody else is going to talk about this. You're not going to see this in mainstream media. Dropsite talked about it. Nobody else is going to fucking talk about it. And this is just another day where Palestinians live in hell. And their rights get stripped more and more each day. They get occupied more and more. They get oppressed more and more. They get murdered more and more. And here we are talking about it. And again, nobody will mention it. Nobody will mention it. Like, it's amazing how the Israelis do these insanely criminal and bold actions. And then, like, nobody talks about it. But then, God forbid, a Palestinian retaliates and throws a fucking rock. Then we'll hear that for fucking 17 years about how that's unacceptable. And you got to finger wag at that, right? Okay. Now, on that point, this is incredible, man. So a new poll came out from Harvard and Harris, and among young people in this country, age 18 to 24, okay, 18 to 24, they did a poll. Who do you support more, basically, Hamas or Israel? Now, look, that's a false dichotomy, right? They could have given them Palestinians or Israel. They didn't. They did Hamas or Israel. Okay. Would you like to take a guess what the breakdown was among young people? 60% say they support Hamas. 40% say Israel. Hamas is plus 20 over the terrorist rape state of Israel among young people. Look, they did it to themselves, bro. They did it to themselves. They did. Israel did it to themselves. They live streamed a genocide 24/7. I saw things on the timeline that I hope, my kids never have to see. I saw the most, kids with body parts, over a 50-yard radius. Legs blown off. So a dad crying with his dead kids in his arms, right? Doctors being murdered. Kids being shot in the face. People being starved to death. Being fucking bags of bones, right? UN buildings being bombed. Hospitals, schools, every fucking hospital or school being bombed. Just stuff that, would make a grown man break down in tears is the stuff that we've seen. And they did it all this time and really expected no backlash over it. Well, now it's here, bitch. Now, my guess is if you ask young people, do you support Palestinians or Israel? Instead of being 60-40 like it is with Hamas over Israel, that shit would be like 90-10. Give me a second. Phoebe needs to go inside. So low-key, the phrasing of this question almost did like a favor to Israel, right? Like, do you understand that? This is like a favor to Israel to be like, oh, look, you still have 40% support among people age 18 to 24. Like I said, if you do Palestinians or Israel, it's going to be 90-10 in favor of Palestinians. And look, this is what happens when you have a younger generation. They're plugged in. They follow the news. They see the videos. You can't lie to them. You can't propagandize them nearly as well as you can with the boomers whose brains are rotting as they're sitting there listening to Sean Hannity vomit out some garbage all day. Okay? So this is the result. This is the fucking result. The chickens are coming home to roost, baby. They are coming home to roost. And I think a lot of people went from viewing Hamas and saying, yeah, they're terrorists and I denounce them and I'm against them, right? They went from that position to, I kind of get it. I think a lot of young people feel like that because all they had to do was look at what Israel was doing. I mean, how are people going to react when an IDF thug grapes a Palestinian hostage, right? And then that gets out to the public in Israel. They launch an investigation, and then the public takes to the streets and does right to grape protests. In other words, they're pissed there was an investigation into the guy who was caught on video graping a Palestinian hostage. Then the guy who was the grapist goes onto Israeli TV and takes his mask off to show everybody his face, knowing, hey, they look at me as a hero even though I'm a grapist, so let me take my mask off. And that guy becomes a national hero, and the person who blew the whistle on the whole thing, they're a national enemy. So how are regular people going to react looking at this? They're going to go, oh my God. Well, I kind of understand resistance groups now. I kind of understand harsh tactics now. That's what's going to happen. And that's what did happen. And young people are fucking over it, man. They're over it. It is what it is. Like, they made their bed. Now they're going to sleep in it. Israel did. And the younger generation is done. By the way, that's why Israel is trying to rush through that provision of the bill in the NDAA to merge together the U.S. military and the Israeli military. That's why. Because they know, oh shit, we're going to lose support. Of course, duh. So like now we have to force it. Now we have to make it so even if you break up with us, our tentacles are too deep in the system. You can't really fully break up with us. That's why they're doing it. It's really crazy, bro. It absolutely is astonishing. Okay. So as you all know, we have the fecal lettuce problem in this country. We have cyclospora, the parasite, which is from feces, water, that got on lettuce, and it made people sick, and there was this big outbreak of it. And the reason why that happened is because our FDA and our CDC and our HHS are now total fucking butt cheeks. They suck. And they suck because there was massive cuts. Doge went in there, Elon Musk went in there, Trump went in there, RFK went in there, and they said, how about we fucking get rid of the regular food inspections and fire a bunch of people? And that's what they did. And now we're dealing with the fallout of that. The government does so many things that you didn't realize until it's gone, right? Now that it's gone, you go, oh shit, we got poop lettuce all over this country? Yes. Because fucking anti-government Republican extremism always leads to shit like this. It leads to a breakdown in a functioning society. Because they take away all the things that actually make society work. Okay, so I got another one for you. The FDA was just forced to recall over 735,000 Pillsbury bread roll packages due to glass contamination. Damn. Damn. Love my functioning country that I got here. Love it. Now, the fact of the matter is this problem could have been nipped in the bud and caught much earlier, and perhaps you wouldn't have to do the recall. If you had the regular food safety inspections, you were able to pinpoint exactly what was going on, when it started, and how to stop it, okay? But no, of course not. Let's just continue to fucking, be in this Titanic of a country that just hit the motherfucking iceberg. I hate these people so much, man. I really can't even describe it. But on the bright side here, so Zoran Mamdani has apparently turned down an 18% pay raise that would have brought his salary to $305,800, okay? And he came out and said, quote, I haven't knocked on anyone's door in New York City, and they've said their concern is that the mayor makes too little, he said to reporters. The same day, by the way, members of the city council voted to approve a pay raise for themselves and other officials. So Zoran is stunting on these hoes, bro. He goes out there, he's like, I don't even need a fucking pay raise. I'm good. I'm making decent money. Nobody wants me to make 18% more, right? He's like, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to take the pay raise. This guy's goated, man. Like, I'm sorry. He's one of the most phenomenally talented politicians I've ever seen in my life. His ideology is correct, but also the way he moves, bro. The way he moves is just like, they can't stop him. That's why his approval rating goes up and up and up and up and up. Like, every politician, when they get power, their approval rating goes down. It's like a law of nature, except Zoran. And it's because he actually means it. He means it. He's all about democratic socialism. He's all about improving the lives of people who live in New York City. And to do something selfless like this, bro, low-key, I think most democratic socialists would just like take the raise and shut the fuck up and not say anything about it. But he's like going out of his way to be like, nah, let me sort of like, I already make a decent amount of money. I could just like sort of stand in solidarity with, working people who might be struggling to one extent or another and say to them like, bro, I don't want this government to be about me. I want it to be about you. So it is just a thing of beauty watching this man do his thing, bro. I must say. Now, I'm going to highly recommend all you out there follow the GOP L's account because it is just insane. The stuff you see on a daily basis. I literally can't go a day without seeing some Republican somewhere of being a fredophile. Okay? So a Republican youth pastor was caught graping 2 teenage girls at his church, and he was just sentenced to 6 years in prison. Okay? And by the way, the other thing I love about this account is everything they post is sourced. And it goes on, right? A Republican coach by the name of Michael Peacock exploited over 100 children and blackmailed them into producing pornographic images of themselves. He worked at a Christian school, surprise to nobody, and he attempted to cover up his heinous crimes, but he was just sentenced to 40 years in prison. Apparently, the school helped him try to cover up his crimes. They attempted to help him cover it up. But no, another Republican exploiting children. I'm telling you, man, this is it's a real problem on the right. It is a real problem. Pedocon theory is a theory like gravity is a theory, bro. Because this shit just keeps, every day I see a new one. Every single fucking day I see a new one. We also have Trump apparently moved original copies of the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment into defective storage cases, and it exposed the documents to harsh light and heat. So it's going to degrade the documents. And as soon as I read this, I thought, this is everything this guy touches turns to shit. So of course this is happening. No shit, this is happening. And you guys know he took a bunch of fucking, some of the most important documents in our nation's history and moved them to the fucking White House because he wants them near him. This is who this guy is. And they don't care about whatever the rules are, whatever the process is, whatever way you can keep these documents in their best shape. He doesn't care. He simply doesn't care. They don't fucking care. And so here we are. So now we're probably going to get original copies of the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment to be barbecue chicken much earlier than they should be, all because this guy is a fucking jackass. Also, the Trump regime placed panels about the brutality of slavery at the Philadelphia President's House Memorial. They got rid of them. So this is disturbing. But of course, so the Philadelphia President's House is basically the first White House, I guess you could say. And they removed everything about slavery that was there. In the same way, they've done this at the museums that they have control over. They've tried to rewrite the history. Trump very famously was take out the part about me being impeached. Leaving Bill Clinton, leaving all the other impeachments. Take out the part about me being impeached. He did that. They got rid of a whole bunch of stuff about slavery because they call it woke. I love how they call it woke. Meanwhile, this is literally just facts. It's just a factual retelling of what is. Hey, this happened. Here are the specifics. And they go, we don't like that. Get rid of it. So if you really think about it, it's a war on reality is what it is. It's not just a war on wokeness. It's a war on truth. It's a war on reality. It's a war on an accurate description of our nation. And so, in a sense, they're the woke ones, right? In the sense that they want to remake the country in their own image and lie about it. They want to be authoritarian in service of their ideology and their narrative. They don't care about the truth. This is right-wing postmodernism to a T. They don't care about the truth. They care about my truth. Whatever Trump thinks is real is the thing that you're forced to believe. even if there's zero evidence for it whatsoever. So they did that. Absolutely disturbing. And then at the same time, by the way, the Secretary of War Crimes, Pete Kegsbreth, just blocked the promotions of 7 senior Navy officers. 5 of them are women or people of color. Insane. So for the first time in more than a decade, there are no female active duty naval officers. Just wild, bro. Just wild. And this is what they've done. They've like systematically gotten rid of the people of color and the women and stopped them from rising through the military ranks. And I really think the reason is very simple. They look at them and they go woke, and they think, oh, these are people who might have a conscience and might be against our war crimes or might be against us when we order the stealing of an election. And so you gotta go. That's their thing. I swear that's their thinking. That's definitely their thinking. So anyway, incredibly disturbing stuff, bro. It really is incredibly disturbing. But like I said, tune into Crystal Kyle and Friends tonight. You guys don't want to miss it. And that's all I got for you, man. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Peace, y'all.